Clint, first comment. Welcome to the live stream. What is going on? I'm just gonna see if I can get this hooked up on my laptop here. All right, let's see. Wow, looks like we have some pretty good video quality today. Wow, that's pretty amazing. Kind of center it here a little bit. Get it straight. All right, I think we're ready. What's up, Alex V? All right. All right, 3 people on the live stream. 1 thumbs up. What's going on? All right. What's up, Snakes Gaming? What kind of computer do I have? I actually have it's an HP Envy. So I actually just upgraded both of my computers. I actually have this laptop and I have another one. I think I paid like $1,200 a piece or something for these laptops, which were pretty good for processing videos. Sometimes I wish I actually had a faster processor on some of these computers. But as far as, so I'm actually just using my computer to look at the comments in the live stream, but I'm actually live streaming on my cell phone, which is a Galaxy Note 9. So that's kind of how I have it set up. Not a really high-tech setup as far as doing the live stream. Pretty low-tech. What's up, CLF Reptiles? What's up, Joe? Bobby is here. Bobby is here. All right, Snakes Gaming says, is it possible to get a ball python with white eyes? I'm not sure if I've ever seen a ball python with white eyes other than one that's really deep in shed. I don't think you actually can. What's up, Mike? Love that you do these live videos. Thank you. Yes. It's a little bit different, kind of switching things up on my channel a little bit here. So I know I haven't done a whole lot of live streams. As a matter of fact, this one is my number 26. This is my 26th live stream, which is kind of crazy. What's up, Blimbo64? DeVille 194 says, can you make a video on how to assist feed adult ball pythons? So as far as I know, I don't think you should assist feed an adult ball python. I know some people have actually said that they've brought their adult to a vet and they've tried to assist feed an adult ball python at a veterinarian, and I probably wouldn't. I've never heard of anyone really assist feeding an adult. It's always usually just juveniles that haven't eaten in a long time. Let me tell you, a ball python, as far as I know, has never starved itself to death. I've never seen a snake where it just refuses to eat. Eventually, if you keep offering food, they definitely will eat at one point or another. G. Jackson, what's going on? Daniel, hey, what's up? Greetings from Brazil. Wow, all the way in Brazil. Congrats for the great work. Thank you. Sean says, love your videos. Thank you. Any tips for convincing parents for a ball python? I actually have one video out there. It's called How to Convince Your Parents. And as a matter of fact, it's the only video I have on my channel that's actually marked as for kids. It's a kids only video. And it's kind of interesting, the whole kids video. If you actually mark it as kids, you can't make any comments on that video, and YouTube doesn't actually promote them like your other videos. So you can actually, if you go to YouTube, you can type in how to convince your parents and then my name, Chris Hardwick, and I bet that video will actually show up, but you can't comment on that video, which is kind of interesting. Have I got any eggs for my ball pythons? No, I'm actually checking twice a day through all my females, looking through my whole collection twice a day, still no eggs. I'm thinking any day now I should get some eggs here for my ball pythons. Mike says, I've been looking to start breeding ball pythons. Would you ever hold a virtual class? No, pretty much. I guess the live streams are kind of like a virtual class. Like, you can pretty much ask me whatever you want. But I don't really do like any kind of classes or like sessions or anything like that. Six Exotics, what's up? Marcus Fowler, how often should you spray your enclosure? So it really depends on how dry your ambient humidity is as far as spraying your enclosure. So here in Colorado, I pretty much go through, I used to go through like almost every other day and add water to my substrate in my enclosure. But ever since, it seems like ever since I added my humidifier and keep the humidity in here about 52%, I say maybe every 3 or 4 days I go through and have to add humidity to my tub. So not that often compared to what I was doing before. He's been off food for a couple of months. I'm trying to figure out what to do. Yeah, so ball pythons, let me tell you, they will go off of food for months and months at a time, and you just have to keep offering, and eventually they'll actually they'll take something. Sometimes you can actually try like if you're feeding rats, sometimes you can try like a frozen thawed mouse or an African soft fur or something like that. But right now it seems like most of my snakes are off of food. Out of probably, I have like 41 ball pythons here in my collection, and I'd say maybe only about maybe I'd say less than 10 of them are actually eating right now. It seems like you get into that part of the breeding season, and a lot of your females and your males and some of the, seems like a lot of the grow-outs will actually stop eating this time of year. And then it seems like right after all the females lay eggs, almost all the snakes in my whole collection will go back on food almost at the same time, which is really weird. I don't know how they can figure out, you know, what season is. I don't know if it's the pheromones or something that's released by the males and the females, but it's kind of interesting how they're almost on the same kind of a feeding cycle through my whole collection. All right, Sean says, how do you switch a hatchling from live to frozen? Good question. So a good time to switch a hatchling over is if you actually have a hatchling that gets to the point where it'll eat anything. You put anything in the tub and it just goes crazy for the rodent. At that point, it's pretty easy to switch over to like a frozen thawed rodent. I'd say usually after maybe about 6 or 8 live mouse hoppers is where I found they get to the point where they'll pretty much eat anything at that point. All right, yeah, thanks for the advice. Sure. Let's see. Don't want to lose my place here. Let's see. Josh Hughes Exotics, what's up? Are albino pied ball pythons a real thing? Yes. Albino pieds are a real thing, so it's like an albino with big splotches of white in the albino. And I'd say as far as the albino, it's really hard to get anything to really break through the albino. I'd say pretty much the #1 most popular albino combination is the albino pied as far as just the sheer numbers. If you actually go over to Morph Market, a lot of people, that's pretty much the #1 thing that most people do with the albino. All right, I want a bamboo. Yes, I should have. Hopefully, if all my females lay, I'm thinking I might have about 15 females that'll lay eggs, and quite a few of them should have just the straight bamboos. I'm thinking I should have maybe 12 or 15 bamboos this year. So I should have plenty to go around depending on how many people actually want bamboos. All right, Dylan Thomas, hi from the UK. Wow, the UK. Love your videos. Thank you. CLF Reptiles, love your channel. Thank you. Let's see, what's up? Oh, CLF, what is going on? There's a reptile expo coming up in Missouri. Nice. Louis Gomez, what's up? Mike says, if I wanted to learn breeding, would I be able to email you for some help if you don't want to do a virtual class? So I have probably about 1,200 videos on YouTube. So pretty much anything that you can think of, you can just go over to YouTube, type in my name, and then type in what you want more information on. And I can almost guarantee I probably did a video on what you're thinking about. I did a video on just about everything that I can think about over on YouTube. And if you don't find a video about it, you can actually leave a comment under one of my videos and say, hey, can you do this topic? And I'm always looking for new topics for my YouTube channel. All right, 6 exotics. I got my 3rd clutch yesterday. Wow, by surprise. Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, sometimes, as a matter of fact, I actually had one ball python. I thought for sure that one wasn't going to lay at all. And it actually laid some eggs, and most of them were slugs. I think that's why it was a little bit smaller. And I didn't expect that one at all, which is kind of crazy. But I did get some good eggs out of that one. Hey, William Sherwood, thanks for becoming a fan. I just saw that, a new channel member. Nice. So if you actually, so speaking of channel members, if you actually go under any of my videos and click the join button, you can actually sign up as a channel member. And every time you make a comment, I'll actually see that you're a channel member. And at the end of all my videos, I do like an end screen with all my Patreon supporters and channel members over there on every single screen. So yeah, thanks for becoming a member. Let's see, what's the cheapest morph other than a normal classic? So that's a good question. So it's kind of interesting. If you actually go to the reptile shows and look at all the snakes that people have on their tables, a lot of times the normals will be like $50. Sometimes that's kind of the average price at some reptile shows. I've actually seen them a little bit cheaper. But it's kind of interesting because you can actually get other genes for just a little bit more. I've actually seen, you know, for like $60 or $70. A lot of times you can upgrade to some of the more common genes. Like, for example, you can actually get like a lesser, a Mojave, like an Enchi or a pinstripe. I've actually seen, or pastel or something like that. I'd say those are probably some of the more common genes that you can get just for a little bit more than a normal ball python. But I say pretty much overall, the normal is going to be your cheapest ball python. All right, Corey, my first clutch of 9 hatched a few days ago. All normals and all male. That's unbelievable. Sometimes it's like, what are the odds? I actually did that last year, where I think it was last year. I actually bred a bamboo to something else. And I had 10 eggs, and I had all these people that wanted bamboos. And when those snakes hatched, out of 10 eggs, I only had 1 bamboo, which is crazy. The odds are supposed to be 50%, so I should have got at least 5 bamboos, and I only got 1, which is kind of crazy. I've actually seen some people where they'll take a bamboo, breed it to something else, and every single offspring will all be bamboos, which is, what are the odds of that? It's kind of crazy. Let's see. Pairing was a female fire to my Cree. That's crazy odds. Hit that like button. Thank you. Yeah, shouldn't assist feeding an adult. Hatchlings for sure. If balls off food, they're off food. So pretty much the only time I've ever heard of people assist feeding a ball python is like a brand new hatchling that has never eaten a single meal in its entire life. Sometimes you get hatchlings that just don't realize that it's food, and sometimes you have to assist feed until they'll finally take that first live mouse hopper. But other than that, I've never seen anyone like assist feed even a hatchling. So essentially, if you get a hatchling that has like 5 or 6 meals, you know, 6, 7, 8, I'd say, you know, you get like 8 meals in a hatchling. Pretty much at that point, for the rest of the ball python's life, you don't have to assist feed that ball python, as far as I've ever seen, unless you'd have like a really sick ball python. Maybe if you had, you know, some kind of a severe injury and it absolutely wouldn't eat, maybe in that case you may think about going to a veterinarian. They might do assist feed or something. All right, Joe, have you ever used ZoomEd forest floor substrate? So I have used it for my tarantulas, but I haven't used it for my ball pythons. And I pretty much, I don't really think it holds enough humidity as far as what I need here in my really super dry Colorado climate. It's almost like a desert here. And I don't know if that ZoomEd would actually do it. I've actually seen some people take like the forest floor and they'll mix it with coconut husk and some other substrates like a cypress mulch or something like that, and kind of make a mixed kind of a substrate for ball pythons. What is the most expensive morph of ball pythons you have? I would say the most expensive one I ever hatched out was actually a lemon blast scaleless head, which now they're not really that expensive, but when I hatched them out several years ago, they were actually selling for $6,000 over on Morph Market, which is kind of crazy. Is kind of thinking back, I probably should have sold them back then and just hatched some more out later on, because now they're definitely not worth $6,000, which is kind of crazy. I'd say probably the most expensive I have in my collection now is like my Banana Anchi Clown that I paid $1,500 for, or if you actually look at some of my Visual Desert Ghosts, probably like my Visual Desert Ghost female, that's like a pastel spider desert ghost. That one's probably one of the most expensive ones I have. Let's see. Let's see. Would you do a video that was an hour long to do step by step on how you breed, the breed weights, and what type of year you breed? So I do have multiple videos about breeding as far as the breeding weights and when to pair up. And I actually have a video on the whole season, pretty much from beginning to end. I have one called, I have a lot of videos pretty much on everything that you can think of. If you actually just go over to YouTube and do a search, I'm sure you can find a lot of videos about that. Let's see. I have 22 females and only 2 males beginning them up on weight, almost ready to breed. Yeah, so if you have 22 females that are almost ready to breed and only 2 males, you definitely need some more males. I would definitely think about that, because usually 1 male will service maybe 4 females as far as the maximum. So you need probably at least like 3, maybe 4 males to actually breed all those females. That's a lot of females. All right, Becky Bex. Hey, I'm new to your channel. I've been enjoying your vids, getting my first snake in a couple of weeks. Nice, congratulations. Paisley Rhino, what's up? My Animal House, what's going on? Yeah, a little bit behind on comments already. All right, let's see. Grace Hardy, what would be the best morph to breed with a Mojave GHI Puma? That is a very good question. Mojave GHI Puma, that's an interesting combination. I'm gonna actually come over here to Morph Market to see what that actually looks like. I don't even know if there's one over here on Morph Market. So the Puma GHI Mojave. Oh, so that's let's see. That was weird. GHI Mojave Puma. And that is all. I'm gonna see what that looks like, because the GHI Mojave is really, I don't even know if there's one over here. Let's see. There is one. That's GHI Mojave Puma. Wow, that's almost like a gold color snake. That's pretty wild. So that's the spark and the yellow belly that makes the Puma. And then the GHI Mojave. A lot of times with the GHI Mojaves, you'll actually get like a black snake with a dotted bright line right down the top. And sometimes in the GHI Mojaves with certain genes, you'll actually get kind of a gold colored snake, which is pretty wild. I've never actually seen it. There's only 2 of them over here on Morph Market. So that is a wild combination. So you can actually breed it to, you have to be careful on that one, because you actually have the Mojaves. So if you breed it to another gene in the blue-eyed leucistic complex, you'll actually end up with an all-white snake, or in the case of like the Purple Passion or the Mystic Potion, you get kind of like purplish colored snakes. Or you can breed it to like a special and get the crystals with the Mojave and the special, which is pretty cool. And the GHI, you can actually, there's a whole bunch of stuff you can actually do with this. So this actually has yellow belly in it. So you can actually breed that to, for example, you could breed it to like a highway or a freeway and make some more highways and freeways with all these other genes in the mix. That's probably a pretty amazing project that I would go after with that one. All right, the Night Wolf. Hello, I am here, but I've been watching your vids. They are great. Thank you. Oh, I am new here. All right, CLF Reptiles, out of all the YouTubers I watch, you have the best videos. Thank you. I try to come up with something. It seems like lately I've been trying to make better videos, and even if I have to skip a day here and there to try to come up with a little bit better content. So try not to repeat anything and try to come up with something that's more interesting. Seems to be working pretty good on my channel. Seems like my views are up a little bit, then I'm trying to think of better topics. All right, Martin Exotics, always feed live. Frozen loses a ton of nutrition. Yeah, so I was kind of the same way. I actually started feeding all my ball pythons frozen thawed for the first year or so. And then I started feeding live only. I found out that, ball pythons, they don't want to be fed. They want to hunt, and they'll actually do a lot better on live rodents. And if I actually take live rodents and go through my whole collection, I'd say probably twice as many snakes will definitely eat live versus frozen thawed, until you have an accident where a live rodent will injure a snake. And I've actually seen some people where they're feeding live and it only takes just a flash of a second for a live rodent to like take the eye out of your ball python. I actually had one, it only took a second, and that rodent took a really big bite out of the side of my ball python, out of one of my white ones. I actually had a blue-eyed leucistic. And after that, I was like, I am never feeding live. It only takes, let me tell you, it only takes one where the rodent will actually damage your snake just one time. And let me tell you, you start thinking twice about feeding live rodents to your ball pythons. But yeah, you can definitely have a lot more success feeding live. I own 2 ball pythons. This is from Omar Butler. What's up? I own 2 ball pythons. One hasn't eaten in about 6 months. So usually I don't worry about ball pythons until they start hitting about the 6-month mark. And that's when I'm like, all right, it's been 6 months since this ball python has eaten. I'm going to start trying to change it up. And what I would actually do at that point, I would try to do like a frozen thawed mouse, or maybe like an African soft fur or something like that. And then if they eat it, I'd probably follow up about a half hour later with like a frozen thawed rodent or something like that. Sometimes you can actually do like a really small live rodent, something that's not as dangerous as like a full-size rodent. When I feed live, I like to try to feed something a lot smaller, but that's kind of what I do to try to break that fast. So sometimes it'll work, and sometimes you just have to wait them out. Let's see. Yeah, just keep offering and be patient. Definitely. Yeah, sometimes it can be pretty frustrating waiting on your ball pythons to eat. What's the most expensive snake you have sold? Pretty sure the most expensive snake that I've sold is $1,500. And that was, as a matter of fact, I probably could have got more money for that one. That was actually just last year. I actually sold a visual desert ghost. And it was a pretty awesome snake. It was one of my most amazing hatchlings for last year, and I decided to sell it. And it was a female. It was like a super pastel. I think it was Inchy Visual Desert Ghost. It was like super, super bright. It was probably one of the best snakes that I've ever produced. Let's see, Preston. Yeah, let's see. Can I just ignore the humidity in my ball python enclosure if I have a humidity box? I would probably try to dial in the humidity somewhat in your ball python enclosure. You could probably have it a little bit lower, but I've actually found if you have a ball python in too low of a humidity, a lot of times that can put them off of food too. Sometimes just increasing the humidity will get them to feed. So I would probably at least get it up to maybe about 50% in your enclosure, even if you have a humidity box in there. How's feeding live bad advice? Yeah, so some people say never feed live. Some people are really against it. Some people say they've only been feeding live to their ball python for, you know, decades. So sometimes it'll work good for some people have never had problems with feeding live, and it seems like a lot of the bigger breeders are kind of migrating towards feeding live because they kind of want to push their projects along faster and faster. Hey, we got a super chat. Thank you, Con Worker One. Thanks for all you do. Thank you for the first super chat of the live stream. Let's see. Yeah, as you know, there are some animals you can't feed frozen thawed, but when you can, it's safer and cheaper. Yeah, so there are some snakes. Sometimes you get a ball python that absolutely will refuse a frozen thawed, especially if you've been feeding it live for like years and years and years, and then you try to go to a frozen thawed. Sometimes they'll just absolutely refuse it. Let's see. Small rat can tear up a snake. Yes. So most people will say if you're actually feeding like a live rodent to a ball python, I'd say in most cases people will say you want to watch it the whole time to make sure that the snake actually isn't left alone with that rat at all. You want to definitely supervise. As a matter of fact, a lot of people will take like a popsicle stick or something like that, and as soon as the snake grabs the rat, sometimes they'll put like the popsicle stick in the mouth of the rat to make sure the rat can't bite the snake. They'll do all kinds of crazy stuff kind of like that. But you know, I would say if you're actually feeding like live mouse hoppers to hatchling ball pythons, that's pretty much the safest, where there's really no risk of that rodent injuring the snake. But yeah, it can be a risk as far as feeding live. And let me tell you, I do not like feeding live at all to my ball pythons. I try to absolutely avoid it if I can. Hey, we got another super chat. Thank you, Karina Cole. Thanks, and hope your chips get my Lucy eating again. Yeah, so it's pretty exciting when your snake goes back on food, especially since you get kind of worried about it after a long fast with some of your ball pythons. So yeah. All right. Pakotsu. What's up? I've been watching your vids for quite a while. I'm glad to see you live. Yes. So I've actually been doing live every Saturday and Sunday, doing 3-hour live streams on the weekends, starting at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. It's a little bit different on my channel, mixes it up a little bit, and it seems like the YouTube algorithm does not like my live streams. And the other kind of interesting thing, if you have a YouTube channel and you're thinking about doing a lot of lives, I've actually seen that I have a lot of, for example, it seems like Google and stuff like that are actually promoting my videos over on external websites outside of YouTube. And it seems like ever since I started doing lives, it seems like a lot of those external sources have not been promoting my videos as much. As a matter of fact, if I go to my YouTube dashboard, it says that your views are lower because the external websites are not promoting your videos as much. And I think it's because, you know, they don't really want to promote my live streams over on Google, which is kind of crazy. It seems like they want, you know, specific topics for Google to promote them. All right, Martin Exotics. While I agree, not price, let's see. I use feeding tongs, watch every feeding. Yeah, so yeah, you can do that too. Prefer frozen. Yes. Let's see. All right, so if I breed a banana to a banana, is there any male or female makers super banana? Yes. So that's a good question, because I've never actually bred a banana to a banana in my collection, because I have a banana male maker, and every single banana that I produce has always been a male, and it's always been a male maker. I have not gotten a single female banana or coral glow here in my collection since I started breeding. But if you actually had a male and a female and you bred them together, I would imagine that since the eggs are coming from the female, with the female, you don't really have a problem as far as, you know, getting more males or more females. So all the banana offspring that came from the female, you'd actually get half males and half females. And all those males would actually be female makers because they're coming from a female. I think that is the way that it actually works. And you would get 25% super bananas from that combination too. I'm thinking that's how that works, but don't, I'm not 100% sure breeding banana to banana. It gets pretty confusing with the male makers and the female makers. There were the science to pro, so I would say, if you actually look at the nutritional value of live versus frozen, I would say maybe you would get better nutritional value from the live. So that is a pretty big debate as far as live or frozen thawed. But I've never really had a problem with like nutritional deficiencies feeding frozen thawed to any of my snakes. Let's see. Yeah, I haven't tried African soft furs. I've been told they're like candy, and sometimes they won't take anything else. So there are some things, if you keep feeding them to ball pythons, they can get stuck on certain things. And I actually had a mouser here in my collection that would only eat frozen thawed mice, would absolutely refuse everything else. Every now and then I could actually like, feed it a frozen thawed mouse, and then maybe about half hour later, I could kind of trick it and follow up with a frozen thawed rat. But it was pretty far and few between. It would only take mice. And they can actually get stuck on mice. They can get stuck on gerbils. They can get stuck on African soft furs. I've heard they can actually get stuck on birds. If you feed them like quail or chickens, they can get stuck on those too, which is kind of crazy. All right, just got my first ball python a few days ago. Nice. Blue-eyed leucistic. Awesome. That's awesome. All right, I have 74 animals. The feeding is killing me. Yeah. Yeah, you don't realize how much work a ball python is until you have like 100 of them. And let me tell you, it can be a lot of work. That's kind of crazy. That's when I first started in ball pythons. It's like, you get in that craze where you want to buy another snake and another snake, and then you have your first big year where you have like 100 hatchlings on top of like 50 snakes on top of that. And let me tell you, with like 150 snakes, that is a lot of work trying to take care of all those ball pythons. Let's see. Hector Sanchez, what's up? 37 and just ball pythons. Wow. Not including my birds, fish, geckos, and cats. You're like up there with I am. I actually have 41 ball pythons, which is, it's actually a pretty manageable amount with about 41. But let me tell you, if you have like 100, 120, it gets to be a lot of work with all those ball pythons. All right, let's see. I got a lesser spider girl for my lemon blast. Nice. So pretty, no wobble. That's awesome. Lesser spider, pastel, and pinstripe. That's a pretty awesome array of genes there. Let's see. All right. Marissa Ward, what's up? I have a pastel Mojave yellow belly female and an axanthic pinstripe female. I'm looking for a male to add to our starting collection. Any suggestions? So you have pastel Mojave yellow belly female. You have two females looking for a male. So if you actually have an axanthic pinstripe, I would probably do like I'd do probably an axanthic or at least a het axanthic for that one. If you're actually only looking for one male to breed to both of those, I would probably do something with the yellow belly. I'd probably add something like gravel or asphalt to make the freeways or the highways on that. So if you can actually find like an asphalt het axanthic or something like that, that would be pretty awesome to breed to both of those combinations. Let's see. What size are the larger ARS racks behind you? So the ones behind me are actually just grow out racks. So these racks over here, this is a hatchling rack over here, and then these are actually ARS 5040 tubs over in this rack, and this is kind of like I actually keep my males and my grow outs over in this rack over here, and then for my adult females, for my adult female ball pythons, I actually have them in a 70 series rack, the ARS 7030, and I have a couple ARS 7010s too on that. Yeah, those are 5040s. Let's see. I am, let's see. Oh, wait a minute. I lost my place. All right, my comments just freaked out. I was trying to go one by one here. Let's see. All right, 5040 racks. Yes. I was looking into the Pied, Clown, and or GHI. So, yeah, so if you actually had Pied and Clown working it into an axanthic, you're going to end up with double hats. That could be a little bit tricky. Working with double hats into that. That could be a long-term project, working more recessives into your axanthic. Let's see. How often should you mist your ball python enclosure? I actually add humidity to my ReptiChip substrate I'd say every about 3 to 4 days. Really depends on your ambient humidity as far as that. All right, his master's voice 418. What's up? My Pied is about 8 months after he shed. I switched to rat and he refuses to eat. Someone told me that when they approach 1 year, they make a pause for a while. So yeah, pretty much, yeah, about a year old. A lot of ball pythons will actually kind of run up against what they call the 1,000-gram wall at right about 1 year old. I found it's pretty much anywhere between about 800 grams all the way to about 1,200 grams. And they just stop eating sometimes for months at about that point. So yeah, so it's pretty common. I think it's definitely a real thing, the 1,000-gram wall. Feed the algorithm gods. Oh, that's funny. Let's see. My mom just told me to log on. So hello world, what is going on? Let's see. Christopher Woo, what's up? Your videos are super helpful. I appreciate your wisdom. What is your experience with dimpled eggs? I just had a clutch 10 days ago and they're pretty dimpled. So yeah, so I would say if you have dimpled eggs after 10 days, it could be because you don't have enough humidity in your egg box. So what I would actually do is I'd actually mix up, if you actually look at some of my videos, I actually mix up the vermiculite water, put it underneath an egg crate, and then completely seal it with like a press and seal on top of the box. When I first started out in ball pythons, I actually had some ventilation in my egg boxes, and in a couple cases, I actually had really bad desiccation of my eggs where they lost a lot of the moisture in the eggs and they came almost completely flat. They dimpled way too early and got super flat after 2 months, and none of them hatched after that point. So I'd say a little dimpling is normal. Sometimes you'll have a little bit of dimpling. Usually after 10 days, I would say it's pretty minimal. If you actually have a lot of dimpling after 10 days, I would probably try to increase the humidity or decrease the ventilation in your egg box. Let's see. Let's see, is a 40-gallon big enough for a male ball python at full size? So I would say yes, you could do a male in a 40-gallon. Keep in mind, pretty much the living space of a ball python is the size of the hide that's inside, especially if you're using a glass aquarium. So I definitely use a bigger hide for especially a big male. Well, it really depends on the male too, because like Bobby here is a full-grown male ball python. So if you actually put this snake in a 40-gallon, I think you could, but you need a pretty big hide to cover up Bobby since he's such a big snake. Yes, so it's also breeding season. He will go off of food. Yeah, so it seems like, this time of year, a lot of people's snakes are actually off of food right now because we're right in the middle of a breeding season. All right, let's see. Irrigation Tim. I have a male 1.5-year-old pastel banana Huffman. Have you heard of the Huffman gene? I have heard of the Huffman gene, but I actually haven't done a morph review on that gene. So that's one of the ones I'm actually thinking of putting on my list for one of the genes to actually do is the Huffman gene. Let's see. Huffman was produced by Chris Huffman. Not very common. Let's see. Forrest Harper, do you like to talk about Burmese pythons? Good question. I'd say this is mostly a ball python channel. I'd say Burmese pythons, probably one of the best pet pythons as far as getting a really big snake, mainly because they don't really grow as long as a reticulated python. So if you actually compare like a really big Burmese to like I actually have it's a 17-foot long, 100-pound reticulated python that lives on my pool table. Lucy is a pretty awesome snake. The problem with Lucy is she's just so long. She's incredibly super long where it's really hard to control her. Versus if you actually had the same size of a Burmese, it'd actually be a thicker bodied snake that is not quite as long as Lucy. So I don't know a whole bunch about Burmese pythons as far as like breeding them or anything like that. I know there's actually some guys I know pretty good at some of the local reptile shows that are pretty big into breeding Burmese. But yeah, I really don't talk about them too much here on my channel. It's mainly a ball python channel here on this one. Jenna H, do you ship ball pythons? Yeah, so if you actually look at some of my old videos from like a couple years ago, I was absolutely 100% against shipping ball pythons. I was like, I'm not going to ship any ball pythons at all. And I only sold at the local reptile shows. And I've completely done a 180. Now I'll only ship ball pythons. And there's so many people that want to buy my hatchlings that I don't actually sell at shows anymore. I don't have enough snakes to sell at the shows because they sell almost as soon as I hatch them out, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, I do 100% shipping. Ship FedEx, next day air, directly to your local FedEx ship center. And right now I actually don't have any snakes for sale, but I should have some for sale here in about 3 months. I should have some ball python hatchlings for sale. DT Junior, Volta ball pythons, do you feel or know about them? Yeah, so I actually just recently did a video on Volta ball pythons. It's one of the last, just this week I actually did a video on Volta ball pythons. It's kind of interesting. You'll have to take a look at that one. Let's see. Going to feed my ball python live next week. Nice. Let's see. Aviation Watch, what's up? What's the best way to work with a juvenile ball python who's aggressive? Yeah, so I've actually found with a lot of the young ball pythons that are really super aggressive, pretty much the best way to do it is just to hold them for like, I'd probably hold them for like 2 hours straight, maybe 2 or 3 hours, and just hold them for a really long time, move really slow with them. And let me tell you, they will tame down super fast with a really long handling session on some of your really aggressive hatchlings. I actually bought my clown female, and the guy I bought my clown female from, he said it was one of his most aggressive hatchlings that he's ever produced. And I actually took that one as soon as I got it. I actually got it at a local reptile store show, and actually just held it for like 3 hours straight. And let me tell you, after 3 hours, that was one of my tamest ball pythons after handling it that long, which is kind of crazy. Let's see. Ernesto finally decided on the project I want to work with. Candy Clown Pie. Nice. Yeah, that's a long-term project. If you can actually hit a Candy Clown Pie, that would actually be a really expensive combination if you can actually hit the triple visual. Those are all 3 recessive genes. All right, so we are at 44 minutes. I think I'm going to switch ball pythons. I'm going to switch from Bobby over to Bubble. Let's get Bubble out and handle her. Bobby's getting a little squirrely here. Little switch ball pythons. All right, Bobby, you're getting squirrely. He's like, no, I don't want to go in the tub. All right, here we go, Bubble. I am pulling out Bubble. I don't know if she's going to lay or not. She's getting pretty chunky. I don't know. She might actually lay some eggs. She's a big female pinstripe. Take a look at that big old girl. And I was breeding her this year. She looks like she may be getting bigger. And she actually ate the second week of April. So it's been a couple weeks since she ate. I don't know. Maybe she'll lay some eggs this year. But if she gets any bigger than this, I might now put her around my neck on the live streams. Or I may end up with some snake eggs in my lap. All right, Bubble. She's like, she's a little bit freaked out. All right, Tyler Faulkner. Just got my first ball python today at the NARBC in Arlington, Texas. Nice. I bet that was a good show. She's a pastel spot nose het VPI axanthic. Nice. So yeah, so the pastel is a brightening gene, the spot nose is a pattern enhancing gene, and VPI axanthic is a recessive. That's nice. Pretty nice combination. Just picked up a snake at the Arlington show too. Awesome. I use press and seal on the egg boxes for sure. Yeah, so I use the press and seal. I was wondering if the press and seal on the egg boxes would actually breathe, where you actually get some oxygen transfer in and out. And then I've actually seen some other people where they'll take egg boxes that are completely sealed with a sealable lid, where you actually, there's no way you can get any kind of an air transfer in there. I've actually seen people have success with that. And then recently I saw someone that used saran wrap on some of their egg boxes too. So I think there's quite a few different things you can actually use on your egg boxes. Let's see. When you use the press and seal, do you air them out or you just keep them sealed? So what I actually do is I'll use press and seal on my egg boxes, and then usually about after, let's say after week 4 or 5, you'll actually start getting a lot of condensation on the bottom underneath on the press and seal. And then what I'll actually do is I'll open it up and just wipe down the condensation maybe every 4 to 5 days until they hatch after that. And I always like to let them breathe a little bit and have a little bit of air transfer in and out of there, but it seems like you really don't need any air in there, which is kind of wild. You would think you would need some kind of air in your egg boxes. Yeah, press and seal is the best. Yes. Let's see. How many ball pythons did you start with when you started breeding? So when I started out in snakes, I actually had a whole variety of a whole bunch of different types of snakes. So I actually had some king snakes. I had some Arizona mountain king snakes, some California king snakes. I had an Australian Woma python. And then I decided, after I really discovered ball pythons and all the genes and everything, I pretty much sold all my other snakes and just really focused on ball pythons. So I actually started with, my first year I had like 20 snakes, but they were just kind of all random snakes. And then slowly over the years, I was unloading my non-ball pythons and slowly picking up more and more ball pythons. But you can start breeding with just about as many as you want. So actually, I say my first big year, I probably had maybe 10 clutches of eggs my very first year from 10 females, which was one of my best years when I first started out. Let's see. Let's see. Will you have any banana enchi? Yes. So I actually took my banana enchi clown and I'm breeding it with 4 females, and hopefully one of those females will actually lay eggs. So I should have some banana enchis that would be 100% het for clown, possibly with other genes in the combination. So I'll have to see which hatchlings that I actually produce this year. But yes, I should have some banana enchis this year, which is one of my favorite combinations. You can work almost any other gene in with a banana enchi and make some really amazing combinations. All right, let's see. Daniel, today I bought Bongo Yellow Belly. Wow, to pair with my Banana Lesser Pinstripe Fire. Do you think that'll be too many genes? So let's see. Bongo, Yellow Belly, Banana Lesser, Pinstripe Fire. That's 6 genes. That's a lot of genes, but I don't think it'll be too many genes. Once you actually go up above 6 genes, I'd say maybe 5 or 6 genes can be a little bit challenging to identify some of those combinations. But I'd say with 6 genes, you're pretty safe as far as trying to identify some of those. So your bongos, not a very common gene with the bongo. I've actually seen just a few of those over on Morph Market. So that's a pretty amazing combination. So I was just looking, the yellow belly might be a little bit difficult to tell in some of your combinations. And but other than that, I think you should be able to identify a lot of those genes. Let's see, I'm going to be working with the banana enchi combo as soon as my banana Mojave is ready. Nice. Yeah, definitely go back to using press and seal. I would say as far as everything that I've used, press and seal is definitely the best. The thing I like about press and seal is you can actually seal over the whole thing and make sure you have the seal around the whole top of the egg box so you don't get any air transfer in and out, and you can keep that humidity really high in there in the egg box. Snake Pranks, what's up? Do you name all your ball pythons? I do name every single ball python here in my collection. This is Bubble. Actually, as a matter of fact, when I'm hatching out my hatchlings, what I'll do is during the hatchling season, I'll get name suggestions from underneath my videos. Everyone will suggest a name, and then I'll have this whole big sheet of all these names that I've used over all the past years, and I'll add names to that, and then I'll cut them all up and put them in a jar. And then when I have a hatchling, every time I put them up in a hatchling rack, I'll actually do this on the videos, and I'll shake up the names in the jar and pull out a name for every hatchling and give the hatchling a name. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I'll definitely be asking for like gender neutral names. So a lot of times I actually won't figure out the males and the females right away. So a lot of them, like Bubble, you could be a male or a female as far as the name, except for Bobby. That's pretty much the only one that I know. Yeah, that's a male name for a male snake. Let's see. All right. When I open the egg boxes once a week to wipe the condensation, then seal it back up and out it back in the incubator. Yes, that's what I do too. Just once a week, I open the egg box up. Let's see. Gabriel St. Jean. Is it okay to handle a gravid female, one that has ovulated? So I would probably be really careful with the ball python that's ovulated. Probably the biggest thing is I don't really want to be handling a snake when it starts popping out the eggs. That's the thing. If you know exactly when it's gonna lay the eggs, but you really don't want to interrupt that. A lot of times it's better for the female to actually lay them all in a big mass so you can kind of control all the eggs. I've actually had some females where they'll kind of scatter the eggs all over the enclosure, and it seems like Seems like it's not really good for the eggs to be scattered around like that. A lot of times they can get really dirty in the enclosure. Let's see. Erica Youngberg. Is that an axanthic? So the snake that I have around my neck, this is a pinstripe female. This is Bubble. Just one single gene, just a pinstripe. It's like a really gold colored snake, really super gold for a pinstripe, which is pretty awesome. For one of my favorite genes too. You can make a lot of cool combinations with pinstripe. All right, KB Aesthetics. Hey Chris, I've started to get into the whole ball python thing, but I don't know what temperatures are the best for the hot side and the cool side. So I would say on the cool side, you probably don't want to go below 70 degrees as far as probably the minimum. On the cool side here, my reptile room, I keep it anywhere from like 77 to about 82 degrees Fahrenheit. And then for the hot spot, I'd say most people do anywhere from like 88 degrees to about 90 degrees on the hot spot. You don't want to go over 95 degrees on the hot spot because some people say that they can actually temporarily sterilize your males. So that is a temperature you definitely want to stay away from as far as getting any hotter than 90 degrees on your hot spot. All right, let's see. Anyone going to the Pittsburgh show, May 29th and 30th? No, I am not going to the Pittsburgh show, but I am doing the Pueblo, Colorado show. If I can actually get my motorcycle out of the driveway. The snow is just starting to melt up here in the mountains. We got another, like, it's been snowing for like 2 weeks straight, which is kind of crazy, and it's just starting to finally melt. Hopefully here in a few weeks, I'll actually be able to get down to that show. All right, Sarah Wawa. How did Bobby and Bubble get their names? Bobby's babies should be called Bam Bobbies. That's funny. Bam Bobbies, that's a good name too. So Bobby, I just kind of randomly was looking for a name that was a male name that rhymed with bamboo. So Bobby, I just kind of randomly picked a Bobby the Bamboo as far as picking Bobby's name. And Bubble, as far as this snake right here, I actually just randomly picked her name out of the jar. I actually had a whole jar full of names. I was going through all my snakes, just naming them all, pulling the names out of a jar from pretty much from people that have recommended the names underneath my videos. So it was actually a viewer suggested name as far as Bubble. All right, Karina Cole, where should I attempt my next feed with my picky eater? 4+ months, apparently hit the 1,000-gram wall. Is bioactive enclosure, breeding tub, or large brown paper bag? So I actually feed right in the enclosure. I never really take the snake out of the enclosure to feed it outside of it. Because sometimes you can actually, if you actually pick up a snake in the enclosure and then move it to something else, sometimes they can switch from like a feeding mode over to a handling mode. And I found with ball pythons, it can be a little bit tricky to get from a handling mode back into a feeding mode. So for example, like this snake right around my neck, if I was to actually like dangle a rat right over here, I can almost guarantee that this snake would not eat a rat because it's in a handling mode around my neck. Versus if I just open the tub and with no interaction and I tried to feed it in the tub, I'd say you'd probably have a 90% greater chance that that snake is going to eat right in the tub, right in the enclosure. All right, thank you. Thanks for the response. Sure, yes. All right, let's see. Quick question. Would you do a video explaining what is needed for ball pythons so far as temperature control, feeding, humidity, space, breeding, and incubation all in one? Yeah, so yeah, so I actually have videos pretty much covering every single topic. The problem is if you try to do too many topics all in one, sometimes the videos can be too long, which is kind of tough as far as viewers watching the whole video, because sometimes people just want to know one specific thing. But yeah, that would be a really long video. That would be kind of interesting to do, like a really long, like an hour-long video of breeding ball pythons from beginning to the end. So yeah, I'll have to think about that. think about doing a really long video on that one. Do ball pythons eat frogs in the wild? That's a good question. So I'm not sure if there are any frogs over in Africa, but I would imagine if they have frogs over there, I bet ball pythons would definitely eat them. I know they eat birds. They'll eat pretty much anything that moves around on the ground. So I'd say I think the majority of what they eat over in West Africa is actually African soft furs, is the food they prefer to eat. I think that's why they can kind of get stuck on the African soft furs. All right, Tyler Faulkner, how long should I wait before feeding her if I just got her? So that's a good question. So normally what I would actually do is I would probably wait a full week before you feed your ball python for the first time. And one of the things is, especially if you just get it in the mail and the ball python's really like super cold, you really want to be careful of having a really cold ball python that has food in its stomach. So you want to make sure it really warms up to the temperature and everything. So I'd probably wait at least a week, unless you got it from, so for example, if you actually went over to like a reptile show where someone's local, or for example, if I was actually selling a snake here in my reptile room and you actually came into my reptile room and bought a snake where it's not being shipped and there's no, there's no kind of anything like that really kind of shakes up the snake, I would say you could probably feed it right away in that case if you just got it. All right, my first year I had 6 females. Nice. Yeah, so 6 females, they can actually, so if they actually all laid 6 eggs apiece, that's like 36 hatchlings just from those 6 females, if you can get them to all lay eggs at the same time, which is kind of crazy. Let's see, Casey Sporing. I took your advice on getting a banana for my Emperor pin, possible Enchi. Instead of a regular banana, I'm going with a banana leopard Mojave. Nice. Yeah, that's one of my favorite combinations with the banana and the leopard. Any of the pattern enhancing genes with the banana can make some really amazing combinations. Also adding pied het albino male and albino het pied female. Nice. All right, Ginferno 3. Do you have to worry about genetic health problems if you breed closely related ball pythons? So that is a good question. So I said there's a lot of debate over like inbreeding ball pythons. And if you ask like veterinarians, I would say probably 90% of veterinarians say you probably shouldn't inbreed ball pythons. But if you actually ask people who have been breeding ball pythons, I'd say most people say that you really don't have like the genetic defects in reptiles that you would see in, like, for example, if you're actually breeding like dogs or any other type of an animal. So a lot of people say that you don't really have to worry about it. Although if you're actually breeding some snakes together and you get genetic defects, probably what I would do is I would avoid breeding that pair in the future if you are getting genetic defects from those. But I'd say, as far as what most people would say, sometimes you actually have to breed really closely related snakes, especially if you're going for really complicated projects like a triple het recessive or something like that. Sometimes you don't really have a choice, because sometimes you can't find another snake like that, and you can only breed siblings together. So I'd say that is a pretty debated question as far as breeding closely related snakes. Yeah, I would give it a week. Yes. Let's see. All right. My comments are jumping around here. Let's see. AA Reptiles, what's up? What is your favorite website or Facebook information? Because I would like to have a banana and cheese. So yeah, I really don't have Facebook. The only place I really do anything is here on YouTube. I'm just pretty much a YouTuber. I don't have Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. I do have a Morph Market store over on Morph Market. So you can kind of communicate over there when I post stuff on Morph Market. I probably won't post anything for at least 2 to 2.5 months since I don't really have any eggs right now. So if I get eggs, it's like 2 months before those eggs will hatch, and then a few weeks until you can feed those hatchlings before I'll post them over on Morph Market. And if you actually look at any of my videos, actually, if you expand the description underneath my videos, it'll actually have a link over to my Morph Market store, so you can kind of go over there. And if you actually go over there now, I don't have any snakes for sale. You just like pull up a blank page over on Morph Market. A lot of people say, hey, your link doesn't work, but it's actually working. You're just pulling up a blank page with no snakes for sale over there. All right, yeah, my pinstripe is really gold as well, just like Bubbles. Yeah, so this really super gold pinstripe, one of my favorites as far as a pinstripe. And so I've actually seen some pinstripes that are kind of browned out, not as bright gold as this line of pinstripe. This is a pretty good one. All right, Erica Youngberg, would you ever do a show in Florida? So I'm not sure if I would actually, as a matter of fact, I might not do shows anymore. I was thinking maybe when I go to the shows, I might just kind of show up and just like, do a video on the show and just kind of hang out and meet everyone. Maybe bring Bobby and just kind of hang out. And right now I'm actually just doing shows in Colorado because I have a lot of other animals here that I have to take care of that I really can't leave for an extended period of time. But yeah, I may at some point just travel around and hit a lot of the reptile shows around the country, which would be kind of cool. Maybe if my YouTube channel really takes off and I have a lot of income from a lot of my, if it actually brings in a lot of ad revenue where I could pay for like airline tickets or something like that, I might fly around and do some shows, which would be kind of cool. All right, Jurassic Hank, what is up? Cool snake. Yes, this is Bubble, my pinstripe. Hit that like. Bubble squeezes harder. Yeah, Bubbles doesn't really squeeze me anymore. It's just she's probably even tamer than Bobby. Usually Bobby's always trying to get away, and Bubbles just kind of sits there, which is kind of crazy. All right, I have a Bobby as well, but mine is a banana 100% het albino. Nice. Hey, got another super chat. Thank you, Karina Cole. All right, appreciate the super chat. All right, Bubble. All right, let's see. KB Aesthetics. What is the recommended weight for breeding female and male? I heard around 1,600 grams for female, 600 grams for male. So yeah, pretty much the rule of thumb, I'd say most people will say 1,500 grams for females and at least 2 years old, I would say in most cases. I've actually seen some people that have had 1,500 gram females that are just 1 year old in extreme cases, which I don't know if I'd breed it. I'd probably wait 1 more year in that case. And I've actually bred, I'd say the smallest female that I've actually seen, that I've actually had breed here in my collection was a 1,400 gram female. So you can get away with the smaller female. Looks like we got another super chat. Thank you. Nice. Ryan Milner. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate what you do for the community. Sure. Yeah. All right, so yeah, so let's go back to males and females. So the males, I've actually heard that most people say you really shouldn't breed a male less than 500 grams. Although when I first got my scaleless head male, it was actually 400 grams, and I tried to breed it at 400 grams, and believe it or not, it actually did breed at 400 grams. And kind of the interesting thing is I was breeding it at 400, and at the same time I kept feeding it. So at the beginning of the season is about 400 grams, and I'd say at the end of the 5-month rotation, moving it through all my females, it was probably about 550 or 600 grams at the end of the season. And I did produce a lot of scaleless heads from breeding that really small male. Although last year I was trying to breed some males that were 1 year old. They were over 500 grams, and most of them didn't breed any of my females. So let me tell you, when it comes to males, you can breed smaller, but I would definitely probably wait 2 years on your males and probably wait for at least 600 grams on those males. All right, can you teach a snake its name like a dog? No, I don't think you can. And kind of the interesting thing about snakes, I think snakes are smarter than we give them credit for, but you can't really train a snake because you can't constantly give it treats or any other kind of a motivation to really get it to perform or anything like that. Versus any other animal, it seems like with dogs or any other kind of an animal, you can keep feeding it over and over again. Where like a ball python, you just feed it once and it won't eat for a really long time. So yeah, so I don't know how you'd really test the how smart a ball python is without having some kind of a stimulus like food or something like that. Meatball, what's up? Any tips on getting a ball python to eat? That is a good question. So I have quite a few videos on YouTube. I have one called My Snake Won't Eat or something like that. And I'll actually give a whole bunch of advice. And let me tell you, sometimes with ball pythons, you can try almost anything and they'll still refuse to eat. So you can actually make sure your temperature and your humidity is spot on. You can go through and clean your substrate. If you have a female that just laid eggs, sometimes you can give them a bath. One of the more recent tricks that I've used to get a ball python to eat, I've actually warmed up my frozen thawed rodents under a heat lamp and got them really nice and toasty warm before I'll feed them. Sometimes that'll work. Sometimes you can actually, instead of just kind of hanging the ball python in, and if they won't eat, just giving up, instead of giving up, what you can actually do is put that rodent, that warm rodent, right in front of the ball python and then close the enclosure and then walk away for like 45 minutes. And sometimes they'll actually take it off the ground and eat that rodent, which is kind of surprising. I never really tried it until this last year. It seems like all my leftover rodents that nobody eats, I'll go in and just kind of lay them in the tubs, and every now and then some of my ball pythons will eat them, which is pretty surprising. But other than that, sometimes they just absolutely won't eat. Let's see. What's the most ridiculous name you've ever given or heard for a snake? Yeah, so I actually had, as a matter of fact, when I first started naming my ball pythons, I was doing like male and female names, kind of mixing them all up. And I actually had one that I named Elvis. And come to find out, Elvis was a female instead of a male. I thought it was a male, and I made a mistake in probing. It turned out to be a female, and I just kept the name Elvis for a female snake. I think that was kind of one of the most ridiculous. I had a female snake named Elvis. And then I had another one we actually named King Tut, and that one turned out to be a female, and we ended up naming it Queen Tut instead of King Tut, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, sometimes you can have some pretty crazy names. I usually try to filter out most of the real crazy names before I go through and name my snakes. Let's see. Yeah, for females, 1,600 grams is perfect. So I'm convinced. So if you actually have like a 1,600 gram female, I think it's actually better to wait for another year or maybe 2 years and get that female up to like 2,000 or 2,500 grams or even 3,000 grams before you decide to breed that female, if you're not in a hurry to breed that female. Because essentially what happens is a lot of times when you start breeding your female, like at 1,600 grams, it'll go on a really long fast until it lays the eggs. And then you have a really short window trying to get that female from, below 1,600 grams because it hasn't eaten back up to 1,500 grams. Versus if you waited a few more years on that female and got it up to like 3,000 grams or even bigger than that, you could actually get bigger clutches. I think overall in the long term, you'd do better off if you waited until your females were at least 3,000 grams. You'd end up with bigger clutch sizes in the long term. All right, we got another super chat from Cody. Thank you. Awesome videos. I have ball pythons and beef cattle from New York. Nice. Northern New York. Awesome. Thank you for the super chat. South Africa has a lot of frogs. Yeah, so if South Africa has a lot of frogs, I bet the ball pythons would eat a lot of frogs over in South Africa. All right, so we've been going for 1 hour, 14 minutes, 74 people on the live stream. All right, so we're going to try to do a 3-hour live stream today. Let's see. All right, came in late. Who's the snake you're wearing tonight? This is Bubble, my female pinstripe ball python. As a matter of fact, I'm actually breeding Bubble. I think she might be building some eggs. She's looking pretty chunky. Hasn't had a rodent in a couple weeks. I'm thinking she might lay some eggs. So maybe if she gets any bigger than this, especially if she ovulates, I probably won't do live stream with Bubble around my neck. But she is probably one of my calmest snakes here in my collection. Probably even calmer than Bobby. She's a pretty crazy snake. Let's see. Jake, yeah, just came in to see what snake you had over your shoulders. Couldn't say. Yeah, this is Bubble. Let's see. Jaden, what project are you most excited for this year? So, yeah, so I got some projects this year. I have my visual desert ghosts, which I don't think they're going to go because my female went back on food. I have my female pied. I was hoping she would lay, and I don't think she's going to lay because she went back on food too. She actually laid a clutch pretty late last year. So those two I was really excited about, and they probably won't go, which is kind of a bummer. I'd say pretty much my most exciting is I'm actually breeding my banana inchy clown to my bamboo pastel pinstripe calico, which is a pretty amazing combination. Hopefully she'll lay eggs. I don't know. She's right at the edge of about 1,500 grams. She's one of the early ones, not really that big. So hopefully she'll lay eggs. That would be a pretty exciting combination. All right, let's see. Ryan Milner, what's your best resource for learning the genes? I've been studying Morph Market and playing around with the gene calculator, but I still don't feel confident. So yeah, pretty much on YouTube, I've done morph reviews on most of the more common genes and a lot of the other combinations that you can actually work with the genes. So if you're wondering about a gene, you can just go to YouTube, type in my name, Chris Hardwick, and then type the gene and Ball Python. And more than likely, I'll actually have a video on that gene with all the combinations. Pretty much covered most of the genes and combinations. Not doing a whole lot of morph reviews anymore. I'm kind of cutting back on a lot of the combinations and morph reviews that I do over on Morph Market. Trying to do more kind of random stuff. Let's see. Genetics are genetics. Some inbreeding can be done, but any defects will accumulate. Yeah, some people say, yeah, there's debate over whether inbreeding in ball pythons will lead to a lot of genetic defects. All right, Bobby Tyler, do you use a humidifier in your room? If so, what kind? Yeah, so I actually did a video about my humidifier in my room. I think it's been about maybe a couple of months since I did that video. And it's actually a portable swamp cooler that holds 10 gallons of water that humidifies the room here. And I actually have it set up to a digital humidity controller where I can dial it in at any humidity that I want here in my reptile room. And I pretty much have it set right now at 52% humidity, which seems to be pretty good. As a matter of fact, I actually had one snake that was stuck in the shed a little bit up on the top of the rack, so I might increase it to like maybe 53 or 54%, kind of slowly increasing it until I don't have any problems with any of the sheds here in my reptile room. All right, Timothy. As a first-time ball python owner, can you tell me what hydrometer and thermometer to get? So for a thermometer, what I would actually do is I would actually use one of the infrared thermometers. So you can actually take the temperature on the cold side and the hot side. You can actually point it at the snake and look at the temperature of the snake. And for the hydrometer, I actually just use one of the really cheap little portable. It like shows the temperature and the humidity. I think I bought it at Amazon for maybe like just 10 or 15 bucks. It's not really that high end of a hydrometer. Let's see. Do plants raise the humidity for a room? Good question. So I do think that plants raise the humidity in a room. I actually have a couple papaya trees over here in the corner, and essentially I think they raise the humidity because I'm actually watering the plants. They're really big plants, and I think just the process of watering those does release a lot of humidity in the room. Of course, I have a really big humidifier in here. So, even if that raises the humidity, my humidifier and on the digital controller pretty much dials it in as far as, perfectly adjusting my humidity here in my room. All right, South Africa doesn't have a wide range of ball pythons compared to the US, and it's hard because a lot of genes aren't in South Africa yet. So I have noticed that if you actually go over to the South African version of Morph Market, they definitely don't have as many ball pythons as we have over here in the United States, which is kind of crazy. Let's see. What you need is someone who likes animals. You like a vacation staying in your place while you travel. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah. As a matter of fact, I did have someone who took care of my animals. It was actually a neighbor that came over, and they would feed all my animals, which was pretty nice. But they actually moved away, so I'd have to find someone else. I know they do have like animal caretakers that you can hire here in the local area. Kind of the hard part is, finding someone who will eventually get used to my dogs, where they can feed my dogs, because my dogs really don't like strangers that much, which is kind of crazy. All right. Anyone know someone or a place that ships international? I would say some of your bigger breeders would definitely ship international. So you can look at people like maybe like BHB Reptiles or like Bob Clark or something like that. Some of the really big breeders that have been around for a really long time. I bet they would ship international. Some of those kind of the people that have been doing it for a long time. But I don't ship international mainly because I don't really have any snakes that are that expensive. I think the shipping would cost you more than the snake itself as far as shipping internationally. But with a bigger breeder, it'd probably be worth it if you could get like a whole bunch of snakes all at the same time. So, for example, if you bought like 100 hatchlings or something like that and shipped them all overseas, I could see justifying the cost of shipping them overseas. All right, let's see. Could you please explain hypo? Yes, so hypo is, as far as I understand it, hypo is just a kind of a slang word for ghosts. So some people think that the hypo is different than the ghost, but if you actually go over to morphmarket.com, there's really no search term for hypo. It's just ghost or orange ghost. Or I guess hypo would be, as a matter of fact, you could probably consider hypo to cover like all the different types of ghosts, because there's a whole bunch of different ghosts. There's the orange ghost, the regular ghost, there's the butterscotch ghost. And I would say, if you're talking about hypo, I guess it's kind of like a slang name for covering all the different types of ghosts. Let's see. For someone who slept through biology class, can you explain het genes and how to breed snake with het genes? Yeah. So, when we talk about het in ball pythons, essentially what we're talking about is we're talking about one gene of a recessive gene. So for example, you have albinos. So an albino is like a yellow and white snake with red eyes. You actually need 2 copies of the albino gene in order to get the visual albino with the red eyes. If you just have 1 copy of the albino gene, it pretty much just looks like a normal ball python. It just has 1 copy. They consider that to be het for albino. It's kind of like an invisible gene in the background. So for example, Bubble here has 1 copy of the pinstripe. So you can actually see 1 copy of this gene. So it's not, people wouldn't call it het for pinstripe because it's not a recessive gene. Although it could be het for another recessive gene and you wouldn't know it. Sometimes it can kind of have hidden genes in the background. So yeah, so it's one of the challenges of working with recessives is you actually need 2 genes in order to see a visual effect as far as the visual appearance of the snake. Catherine Gonzalez, how do you recommend to get the humidity higher in a new enclosure? Good question. So it really depends on what your enclosure is and what it looks like. If you're using, I'd say it can be difficult. Say, for example, if you're using like a glass enclosure with like an overhead heat lamp, especially if you have like a screen top on that, sometimes it can be pretty difficult in a setup like that to increase the humidity. What I would actually do is try to completely close off the top so you don't get the evaporation. Or if you have like a tub system, sometimes you can have too high of a humidity, especially if you're using like a plastic enclosure or something like that. And another thing you can do is use like a coconut husk substrate. A lot of times with the coconut husk, it'll actually absorb a lot of the moisture and keep the humidity really high if you're using coconut. All right, Annie G, did you ever get a water snake? Yeah, if you look back at this video, I was like, hey, check out this water snake, and it actually bit me. I think they called it a file snake or something like that. Luckily, it didn't cause any damage or anything, but no, I probably won't get a water snake. That was kind of an interesting video, though, on that one. It was like a black and white banded water snake in a pet store, which was kind of crazy. All right, how long should you leave the male with the female? Good question. So I like to leave the male at least 3 days with the female. I'd say anywhere from like 3 to 5 days per female, and then rotate the males through the females and keep them in there for at least 3 days, I'd say, keeping the male and the female. And what I actually do is after the 3 days, I actually kind of slowly open the tub and peek in there. And if they're still in a copulation where they have their tails twisted together, I would probably leave them for another day or 2 together in that situation. All right, let's see. Michael Benson, what's up? I went to thaw a mouse and my first baby ball started to go into shed. Did I waste a mouse? So not necessarily, especially if you have a baby ball python. I've actually found that you can feed a ball python while they're in shed, especially a baby. So what I would actually do is I'll take that mouse and put it right up to the nose of the ball python. You can put it almost touching the nose of a ball python in shed. And a lot of times they'll actually take that mouse, even though they can't see it. If you get it close enough to their nose, sometimes they'll actually smell it and take that mouse. But keep in mind, a lot of times they can't see very good in a deep shed. You have to put it really close to the nose. All right, has Bobby ever bitten you? No, Bobby has never even tried to bite me, which is a good thing. Have you ever seen a snake shed? Yes, I have seen a lot of snake sheds. As a matter of fact, where I've seen the most snakes shed is when I'm selling hatchlings at a reptile show. And I'm standing there with a whole table of like 60 hatchlings in my display case. And a lot of them will shed right in the enclosure over the 2 days, just standing there watching your snakes. It's amazing. Sometimes if you actually go through your collection, you're looking at one snake here and another snake over here. And then when you go to the reptile show, you see all your snakes for like 8 hours a day standing at the reptile shows. And you start picking out little things that you've never seen before, and you'll see a lot of them shed right in front of you, which is kind of wild, just kind of watching all your snakes over the whole weekend. Let's see. Leave them in for 4 to 5 days and give them a break and pair them up again after a week or two. Yeah, so, yep. I'd say 3 to 5 days for your males and your females. Jurassic Hank, how do you know if your snake is a boy or a girl? That is a good question. So just looking at a snake, a lot of times I'd say in most cases, you really can't tell if it's a male or a female. And what you have to do is you have to look right at the vent, right at the bottom of the tail. And what I actually do is I use a probe kit where I take a metal probe and I insert it into the pocket right on the vent. And I've used like a personal lubricant. I lube up the probe and I put it in there. If it goes really deep in the pocket, then it's a male. And if it goes in just a little bit, and sometimes it'll just go in just like maybe like a quarter of an inch, it's a female. And some people, they actually have a different technique where they'll pop out the hemipines on the male. They'll actually pop out the little hemipines in there. But I like to probe my snakes and figure it out. As a matter of fact, when I go to when I'm selling snakes at a reptile show, I'll actually bring my probe kit. And a lot of people come up to the table and say, hey, can you probe my snake to figure out for sure if it's a boy or a girl? So I'd say the probing is definitely a lot more accurate than popping in most cases. What's the longest you've had a ball python go on a hunger strike for? Good question. I had one that went on a hunger strike for, as a matter of fact, I think I had one that went on a hunger strike for about a year, which is kind of crazy. It was actually a female when she's actually started fasting when I started pairing her up at the beginning of the breeding season. And a lot of times the females will go off of food until they lay eggs, which is like, it can be months and months later. I think it's like, if you're actually looking at the beginning of the ball python breeding season, like mid-October, and then they start laying anywhere from like May, June, or July. And, sometimes they can go really late into the year. Then she laid eggs and she would absolutely refuse to eat until it was almost a complete year until she went back on food, which is pretty unusual. I'd say that's like the extreme. You kind of get worried after that long, which is kind of crazy. All right, let's see. Got a 7-year-old mystic female rescue for $50. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, so depending on the size of that snake, I'd say you got a steal on that one, unless there was something wrong with that girl. 7-year-old mystic female. Yeah, usually if you have like a breeder size female, they go for at least several $100s, even for a normal. So if you actually have a mystic, I'd say that's probably like, $500 or $600 snake for $50. That's kind of crazy. Let's see. Chuck Bearfield, what's up? Just picked up a beautiful adult male pinstripe weighing 1,350 grams. Nice. My girlfriend automatically fell in love. Yeah, pinstripes, definitely one of my favorite genes. This is Bubble, my pinstripe female. Yeah, no problems with the pinstripe at all. All right, Steve, are there any companies that make professional size incubators? They make professional rack systems, watering systems, misting, but there doesn't seem to be pro incubators. That's a very good question. I have seen, I can't remember where it was, but I did see where they did have professional incubators somewhere. They were like custom made. I can't remember the name of the company, but I did see a website once with some professional incubators. But it's kind of interesting because it's not really mainstream as you would find with a lot of the rack systems. That might be a good place to start a business, just doing like professional snake egg incubators, which would be pretty awesome. I know there's a company out there, but it doesn't seem to be very popular. Show me kitties. What's up? Let's see, Al Vester. My ball python has been in his cave for 5 days. He looks as if he's ready to shed. Tomorrow's his feed day. Should I bother him? He's a small snake. Yeah, so that is the problem with glass enclosures. I actually had all my ball pythons in glass enclosures, and I'd walk into the room and every single one of them would be hiding for days and days and days, where they would never come out. They'd just all be in their little hides in their glass enclosures. And ever since, it seems like as soon as I put them in a rack system, they all started eating a lot better. And I think they have a lot more room to stretch out, because the dark area is kind of the living space for ball python. They prefer to be in the dark. That's one of the reasons why I really don't like the glass aquariums. But yeah, that was the other thing too, is, if you actually have a ball python under the hide, and a lot of times if you pick up the hide, sometimes you'll scare them, and then you have to try to feed them in the entrance of the hide, and it can be pretty problematic. Several different levels trying to, keep a ball python in a glass enclosure. I really don't like it. All right, is there any difference between head shape or size due to the morphs? Yes, there definitely is. In some cases, I would say it's kind of interesting. The ones that I've seen, if you actually work, like my banana inchy clown has an unusual head shape with that particular combination. I think it's the combination of the banana and the clown that kind of gives them kind of a smaller, almost like a rounded, kind of a weird head shape on the banana clowns, which kind of looks cool, I think. But yeah, in some combinations, you do get a different head shape depending on the morph. Especially if you do like the super cinnamons or the super black pastels, sometimes you can get kind of like a pug nose on some of your combinations, which is kind of interesting. All right, Justin Nutt. Hey, what's up? How do you feel about getting a BCI as a first snake? Yeah, so boas. I would say boas are pretty awesome. One thing about boa constrictors, I've actually seen some videos of people with hatchling boa constrictors that are really super mean, and they really hiss and bite. It seems like the boa constrictors, if they're not friendly, they can be pretty terrifying, especially as far as a hatchling. So what I would actually do is I would make sure, maybe pick it up at a reptile show and handle it, and make sure you're picking up a really tame boa constrictor as far as your first snake. Because let me tell you, you don't want a snake that is really scary, especially for your very first snake. But yeah, they do get pretty big, and I would think it would be pretty awesome having a boa constrictor as a very first snake. When will you consider shipping out of the country? I really want genes that are not in South Africa yet. So me personally, I probably wouldn't ship out of the country, just because I don't really feel comfortable having a snake in transit for that long. I like to do the overnight shipping here in the United States. But if you actually go over to Morph Market, I'm sure you could ask a lot of the breeders over there if they ship overseas, and you could probably find some. Can you show one of your clown ball pythons? Yeah, so let's see. I can show you one of my clowns. I have my banana inchy clown right here, as a matter of fact. Well, let's get this guy out. And he's been fasting too. He hasn't eaten in a while, since I was breeding them through a lot of my collection. This is my banana inchy clown. Beautiful snake right there. And this is a male and a male maker. So all the bananas that this guy will produce will all be males. Pretty awesome snake. And he's really kind of faded out a lot. He had a lot more definition when he was a hatchling, which is kind of crazy. And he's definitely big enough to breed. This is the first year that I think I might get some more banana inchies out of this guy. And they'll all be het clown. Pretty awesome combination on that one. But yeah, I think he's like my most expensive snake that I ever bought here in my collection. I paid like $1,500 for that one, which is kind of crazy. All right, let's see. I have a question. I'm getting a ball python on Tuesday. I'm wondering how long do I leave them alone before I can handle them and feed them? Good question. I would say most people say don't handle the ball python for at least a week after you get them. It really depends on where you get them from. So if I actually get a ball python like from a reptile show or someone local, I would think you could handle them right away. But if you're actually shipping them in through the mail, I would probably wait a week before you handle them, and I'll probably definitely wait at least a week before you feed them too. Let's see. Let's see. Jack Wood, what's up? Have you had a lot of hostility within the breeding community? I've had 3 separate breeders reach out to me and harass me for selling ivories cheap. That's interesting. Wow, I've never heard of that before. But yeah, it seems like that's it's if they actually have a problem with you selling ivories really cheap, well, I don't know why they're not buying your ivories and then turning around and flipping them for a profit. That's probably what some people, instead of complaining, that's another thing they can do. Well, I don't know. I've never really had people. When I first started selling bamboos, I was selling them super cheap, like dirt cheap, because nobody really knew who I was, and I was just trying to get my name out there. And it seemed like not a lot of people were buying my ball pythons. Not a lot of people really knew about the bamboos either. And then as a matter of fact, a lot of people came up and say, "I can't believe you're giving away those bamboos. You're selling them so cheap." So I would just pretty much ignore them as far as something like that. So what I would probably do is I would probably increase the price on your ivories if people are complaining you're selling them too cheap. You can, especially if you're selling them really fast too. But a lot of people just starting out, I'd say, a lot of new breeders tend to sell at a lower price just because they don't really want to hold on to them for a long time, and they kind of want to get their snakes out there and kind of be known in the industry. But yeah, it's the more people that know you, it seems like the more people are going to complain about something, especially if you're a YouTuber or something like that. The more popular you get, there's always the few people that complain too. So it's just, you kind of have to take the good with the bad. All right, let's see. How do you predict the morph of a snake? Yeah, so how do you figure out what the genes are in the snakes? I'd say that's probably the hardest part about breeding ball pythons. Even if you know the potential genes in both parents, sometimes you can pop out combinations that you haven't really seen before. And when I first started breeding ball pythons, it's like I produced all these hatchlings, and I'm like, help, I need help identifying all these different hatchlings. And sometimes you can actually post pictures over on forums, or you can talk to people. You can actually look over on Morph Market on all the different combinations and get an idea of all the different combinations as far as what they should look like. All right, let's see. Which morphs should we mix to get a white tiger colored ball python? I'm not sure about that white tiger color ball python. Not sure on that one. White tiger, you could probably do maybe like white tiger color. So you could probably do something like maybe like a hidden gene Woma Axanthic pastel fire or something like that. Or maybe if you did like blades. Sometimes the blades can have tiger stripes. And then if you did an Axanthic, it could be white. And if you added like pastel and fire, it would really clean it up too. So that would be like, I guess you can kind of consider it to be like a white tiger looking ball python. All right, Jaden, how did you get first interested in ball pythons? It was kind of interesting. I actually was at work. I was working a day job, and someone came up to me with their cell phone, and they said, "Hey, take a look at this ball python." And it just sold for $45,000. I cannot believe a snake could sell for $45,000. And they just posted it, and within days it sold. It was crazy. It was actually a scaleless head. Back when I didn't know anything about reptiles or ball pythons or anything like that, I was just fascinated that someone could sell a snake for that kind of money. And once I started looking into it and finding out about all these different genes and all the different combinations, I was just completely blown away at that point. And it was like, I felt like I'd missed the whole ball python industry for the first, 10 or 15 years. Let me tell you, if I would have known about ball pythons before then, I would have definitely got into it before I did. I felt like I kind of missed the boat before then. But kind of on the flip side, though, it seems like, getting into the hobby now is you have kind of a more stable market because all the prices are more stable and you don't have this big huge swings, and now you can actually get into pretty much any price point in ball pythons versus if you actually look like 10 or 15 years ago, everything was so outrageous getting into ball pythons. It was almost impossible to get into ball pythons without having like tens of thousands of dollars in order to get into a breeding project. So I think really this is the best time to get into ball pythons. Let's see. Should I have a humid hide in my big tub even with an eco earth substrate? So no, I don't really have humid hides in any of my ball python tubs. As a matter of fact, if you actually had a big snake like this, I don't know how you would do like a humid hide for a really big ball python, like a really, like a full-size female or something like that. I would just probably control the humidity right inside the enclosure. All right, Tony, channel member, what's up? Hi, Chris. I saw the video about the incubator that you still have your billiard sticks. Are you ever thinking about picking it up again? Yeah, so I used to play a lot of pool. Yeah, so my pool table here in my house is really bad. It's so warped and everything. You really can't even play pool on it. It's just kind of falling apart. That's one of the reasons I put Lucy, my really big snake, on my pool table. So if you're actually going to as a matter of fact, I'm actually going to play pool here in about 3 weeks. I'm going to the Pueblo Reptile Show, and then after the Reptile Show, we're actually going to go play a game of pool in Pueblo at the Essential Q's. We're going to meet there at 7 o'clock. It's like a pool hall, bar and grill with 12 pool tables. So I'll definitely be playing some pool there if you're interested in playing some pool, which would be kind of cool. All right, let's see where we're at. Oliver O'Rourke, what's up? What's the next big gene you're thinking about adding? So yeah, so the next big gene that I want to add to my collection, it's either going to be the confusion, the acid, or the static. So all three genes are, a lot of people consider them to be pretty much the same gene. And yeah, so I'll definitely be getting probably a male. I'm thinking after I sell some hatchlings this fall, I'll definitely use my hatchling money to invest in that project. That's the next one that I'm definitely going to get into. It's kind of like, if you're not familiar with that gene, it's kind of like the leopard on steroids. It's a really strong pattern enhancing gene that really explodes the pattern in a lot of combinations. And it's also a dark gene. It'll actually be my first dark gene here in my collection, which would be pretty awesome. Kara Shee, what's up? Jaden, what's your favorite pattern enhancing gene? Yeah, I would say probably the confusion slash acid slash static. That's probably my favorite pattern enhancing gene. Although if you're looking at the best one on a budget, I'd say probably the spot nose. The spot nose, the leopard, the enchy, the super enchy, the confusion, acid, static, all those are really strong pattern enhancing combinations. You can actually, the super pastel is a really good one too. That really brings in a lot of color and really jumbles up the pattern as far as the super pastel. That actually might be my favorite, the super pastel. All right, Christopher, listening to the greatest show on YouTube, working on my incubator and putting my snake room together. Nice. Any advice on my snake room and keeping it at temperature and humidity? So yeah, so I actually use For mine, I actually use just a space heater on, I use like a greenhouse thermostat to dial in the temperature. And then if it gets a little bit too cold or a little bit too warm, I just kind of adjust the thermostat. And then I have like a portable swamp cooler that I hook up to a digital humidity controller here in my reptile room. So if anything's a little bit off or I want to increase or decrease the humidity of the temperature, it's just a matter of going over and adjusting my controls as far as my heat and humidity, which is pretty awesome. All right, Brandon, how often and for how long should you handle your ball pythons? Good question. I actually handle Bobby every single day. I'd say pretty much every single day I handle Bobby, and I've been handling it every day, probably for at least an hour a day for the last 3 years, which is kind of crazy. And I have to say, he's definitely my tamest ball python out of all my ball pythons here. So I'd say that's probably the most you should probably handle him, maybe an hour or two a day. It seems like after about an hour or two, it seems like Bobby gets a little bit restless and he wants to get off my shoulders, but that's probably the maximum that I would hold him for as far as handling a ball python. Sea serpents are great incubators. Yeah, so I have to look that one up as far as a snake egg incubator. But yeah, so I'm surprised there's not a lot more companies making snake egg incubators. All right, Jurassic Hank. Is it bad when I pick up my corn snake and it starts to go crazy? Yeah. So I would say, yeah, if you have a snake and you pick it up and it starts going ballistic, I'd say you just need to handle that snake a lot more. So for any snake, so for example, if you actually have like a ball python or a corn snake or something like that, and you pick it up and you hold it for like 5 or 10 minutes and it starts going ballistic where it just wants to absolutely get away, I would probably do small sessions over a period of multiple days. So maybe try like 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day and slowly increase the time that you hold them every single day until you really tame that snake down. So when I first started handling Bobby, he was kind of like that too. He'd just kind of go ballistic when I'd pick him up. All right, let's see. The mini fridge I picked up has glass shelves. Would this be okay, or should I look for graded shelves? So if you actually have a mini fridge you're converting to an incubator, I would think it could have glass shelves, no problems, because yeah, once you get the temperature stable in there, everything's going to be at the same temperature, so it wouldn't really matter. All right, rat question. Have you ever had a hard time adding a new female in with an existing breeding pair? So sometimes, so when I actually started breeding rats, I would actually take the male and I would move it through my females. And it seemed like I would actually have a lot of fighting. Sometimes I'd have some really serious fighting, moving my male through my female, especially if you have a female with babies and then you move a male in there or another female in with a female with babies. Sometimes they can fight really super bad. And I got to the point where I pretty much keep my males and my females in together full time. And if I have a problem with, say, for example, I actually have a male with, or if I have like a female with juveniles that aren't quite weaned yet, and then she has another litter of babies, sometimes you can risk those babies being trampled by all the other ones. So instead of moving the males and the females, what I'll actually do is I'll move the babies. I'll take the new babies from one female and I'll move it with another female that already has some babies that are about the same age. And I think it's a little bit better to move the babies and kind of equalize the babies versus moving the males and the females through my collection. But yeah, you can have some serious fighting just kind of randomly moving males and females through your collection. Let's see. My boa is a puppy and has always been. Yeah, boas can be really mellow. I've actually seen, mostly in the hatchlings, I've seen some really vicious boas that are really scary. I've actually seen some videos on YouTube. I couldn't believe how intimidating a little baby boa can be if it gets really super, like really hissy or crazy. hissy and snapping. Yeah, just checking out the snake. Nice pinstripe. This is Bubble, my pinstripe female. As a matter of fact, we've been going for almost 2 hours. I might switch back to Bobby here in a little bit, maybe at the 2-hour mark. Let's see. How do you recognize that he will only produce males? Yeah, so if you have, as a matter of fact, when I bought my Coral Glow from the very beginning, it was a Coral Glow male, and I bought it, and there's a few things I didn't know. I didn't know anything about the Coral Glow when I bought my first Coral Glow. One of the things I didn't realize that it was going to change in color so drastically from a hatchling to an adult. It had a lot of purples and oranges in it, and it turned into like a two-tone yellow with a bunch of spots. And I didn't know anything about the male maker or the female maker. And when I bought it from the guy, he actually didn't list it as a male maker or female maker. So I thought, all right, I'm just going to breed the snake and see what the results are as far as if I get males or females. And as far as I know, I don't think there's any way you can actually look at like a Coral Glow or a banana to tell if it's a male maker or a female maker. You have to know the original pairing, if it came from a male or a female parent. That's the way you can actually tell. And sure enough, I actually bred it, and all the offspring came out as males year after year after year. So I didn't even ask the breeder. It's like, yeah, that's definitely a male maker. Wow, my phone just cut out again, which is kind of wild. It says reconnecting, and then it says you're live. It kind of cut out and picked up again, which is kind of wild. All right, let's see. Looks like I got some other kind of language in here. Oh, let's see. Translate. Auto detect. Let's see. It is Arabic. Translating the Arabic. You are the best YouTuber I have. Why don't you download so much? Oh, thank you. Let's see. All right. Over. Oh, I lost my place. Here we go. All right, Casey. Hey, Chris, I love your videos. Didn't realize we were so close in location. Nice. Just wanted to mention that I am a Colorado state licensed master plumber. Nice. That's pretty nice. Yeah, so I might need some plumbing here at some point. As a matter of fact, I have really bad pipes all through my house. I have something going on with my water where it just eats away at all my copper pipes. I get these little tiny pinholes, and I'm like chasing all the pinholes, replacing pipes in my house. At some point, I need to like strip all the copper out of this house and go over to plastic or something. It's like driving me crazy. All right, John Moore, do you think you'll ever do a live with the Iron Animal Show? I try not to do lives with other people. I don't know. It's I've seen some lives kind of go bad as far as being on with live streams. Maybe I'll do a live with the Iron Animal Show. I don't know. I actually watch them quite a bit. They do some really late night lives over there, but yeah, I pretty much just do lives on my own, at least for right now. All right, Jinx, checking in to see how your weekend is going. Do you have any full scaleless yet? No, I don't have any full scaleless. Just still have the scaleless head. My females have been really stubborn as far as getting them up to weight. Hoping maybe this fall I'll get some that'll be close to breeding size, maybe close to 1,500 grams, where I can breed one of my female scaleless heads, which would be pretty awesome. Hi, Chris. I'm a big fan of you in Korea. Nice. Thanks for the video. Here is my question. Actually, my ball python eating like crazy until last year autumn, but is not eating anymore except for a live rat. So yeah, it's pretty typical with ball pythons that they'll just randomly go off of food. Sometimes you can kind of tempt them back into eating again with a live rat. That's just ball pythons, I say. That is the frustrating part with ball pythons. All right, let's see. Hey, Chris, you're a great guy. Thank you. Tell us more about your life, family, etc. Yeah, actually, try not to tell too much about anything other than ball pythons. Try to keep it on topic to ball pythons. But every now and then, I will tell you something. Actually, I'm married. I've been married for over 20 years with no kids. So that is pretty much my life in a nutshell. All right, Frank, what's up? When you feed live as opposed to frozen thawed, your snakes poop more watery on frozen thawed than live? No, I haven't really noticed a difference in when they go to the bathroom using live versus frozen thawed. Pretty much the same. Shane Turner, what is your opinion on odium? Odium is one gene that I haven't done a morph review on yet. Still on my list of genes to do, the odium. KB, what would you mix well with yellow belly spider? Good question. So what I would actually do with the yellow belly spider is I would mix it with, I don't know what Bubble's doing here, right in my face. What I would actually do with the yellow belly spider is I would mix it with an asphalt and go for the freeway spiders. Those are crazy looking snakes, especially if you did like another one of my favorite freeways is the banana. If you can actually find like a banana asphalt and mix it with a yellow belly spider and you'd actually make the yellow belly asphalts, which are the freeways. And then if you actually make the banana freeways, those are really awesome. And the spider freeways are really awesome too. Probably my favorite combinations. Let's see. Have you ever had any issues with serpentovirus? Nope. Not even sure what that is. Haven't tested any animals for it. And haven't really had any health problems with any of my animals here in my reptile room. All right, Squams Jr. What would be the best state to be in the middle of breeding reptiles? Good question. You could pretty much be in any state, but I would think, if you're in the United States, probably the best state to be in would be one right in the middle of the United States, which I don't know if I'd want to live there, but you could do like, like Kansas or Nebraska or something like that, which is, the flat land. You'd be in like the Corn Belt or something like that. Not, you wouldn't have like the mountains or the beach or anything like that. But as far as shipping ball pythons, if you were right in the middle of the United States, you'd actually have maybe the best shipping prices that you could ship anywhere. You can go east or west and have pretty reasonable shipping. Versus if you're like in Florida and then shipping all the way to like Seattle or something like that, potentially your shipping prices could be a negative because it could be really expensive. You possibly could spend like, over like $80, $90 for shipping from extreme ends of the United States. So, that's pretty much the only advantage I see as far as, picking one spot in the United States for breeding reptiles. Of course, I don't know. I'd rather be by the ocean or in the mountains as far as living somewhere. If you had anywhere to pick as far as living somewhere. All right, let's see. Kendall Jackson. I have a ghost jigsaw. I can't think of what to pair her to. What do you think? That is a good question. So you have a ghost jigsaw. I'll look that up just to see what it looks like. Ghost jigsaw. I'm sure there's plenty of them over here. Oh, not that many. Wow. Yeah, so the Ghost Jigsaw. So the Jigsaw is the Pinstripe and the Mojave. I'm surprised there's not more of them over here on Morphar. Wow, it seems like a pretty rare combination, actually, which is kind of crazy. So you actually have the Ghost. So what I really like with the Ghost is working dark jeans into the Ghost to make like a steel gray combination. Or if you have like orange Ghost, that would be pretty awesome too. And then of course with the Mojave, you can always go with the blue-eyed leucistics with the Mojave, like the purple passions or the mystic potions, or you could go with the crystals using the special with the Mojave, which would be pretty awesome. And then the pinstripe, I'd actually do like the bamboo with the pinstripe is one of my favorite combinations with the pinstripe. Or the pinstripe pies, those are pretty cool too. All right, Robert Bailey. I have 3 ball pythons in a glass enclosure with under tank heaters. I have heat lamps on them because my ambient room temperature is 72 to 74. The cages are 75 to 82. Do I need the heat lamps? So I would say you probably don't need the heat lamp if your ambient temperature is 72 to 74. I would think you'd be okay without the heat lamp. All right, so we're at 2 hours. I'm going to switch back to Bobby. Switch from Bubble for the last hour. This guy's been doing pretty good. Getting a little curious. Kind of looking around. It's funny. It's after a while. She's almost getting like Bobby, where they realize, hey, what's around me? And they start looking around, getting really curious as far as just kind of looking around. It's kind of interesting. They're really self-aware and aware of their environments, which you don't really realize until you have them out for a while, which is pretty wild. All right, Bubbles. So I want to put you back. Let's get Bobby. All right, we'll pull Bobby out. Ugh. Bobby is back. All right, Bobby. This is Bobby, my bamboo ball python. He is an 8-year-old male. Doing pretty good. Crazy ball python genetics. What is going on? Are there any blue ball pythons? So none as far as I know. I know there's some that kind of have like almost like a purplish color. Some of your coral glows and bananas can have kind of a purplish color when they're young, and then when they age and mature, they kind of grow out of that blue color. You'll actually see a little bit of blue in your champagne ghosts. In that combination, sometimes you can get a lot of blues when they're hatchlings, but a lot of times they'll actually grow out of that blue color. But as far as like a really bright blue ball python, I don't think there's any blue ball pythons. Lucifer 666, what is going on? My favorite morph, I'd say my favorite morph is definitely the bamboo ball python. This is definitely my favorite. As far as a standalone gene, I say the bamboo is one of my favorite. And it's also in the blue-eyed leucistic, so you can actually make white snakes when you mix it with other genes in the blue-eyed leucistic complex. Jane K's Blazing Snakes. Hey, what's going on? Longtime fans. Nice. All right, Sean Brooks. I finally bought a few females coming in. The one is 66% black lace, and the other one 66% het clown. Nice. Let's see. Panama Red 72. What's up? My favorite morph that you don't own. The favorite morph that I don't own, I'd say probably the Confusion or the Acid or the Static. I'd say those are pretty much my favorite. Although this fall, hopefully I will definitely own one of those once I sell some hatchlings, raise some money to buy it. It's definitely the next project I'm going to invest in. Let's see. Alvester McKenzie, what's up? I recently put out a heat lamp on top of my ball python enclosure. The humidity went down to 40. I sprinkled water and humidity didn't rise. My house is cold because of the air conditioner. So that's one of the things that you kind of get into a situation where if your house is really cold, you have to resort to a heat lamp for the cold side of your enclosure. And then with the heat lamp, a lot of times you have a really low humidity. What you could do is you could do like, I've actually seen people where they'll take like a little closet, like an unused closet or like a walk-in closet or something like that, and they'll put a little humidifier and then like a space heater like I have here in my reptile room, and kind of dial it in only on like a smaller scale or something like that. But yeah, sometimes it's kind of a struggle, especially if you're using a heat lamp like that. You could try to like completely enclose the whole top of the enclosure with like so for example, if you have a heat lamp on a screen on a glass enclosure, you can try to use like maybe like aluminum foil or something and put it around the lamp and all on top of your enclosure. Try to keep the humidity in that way. Let's see. I have to staying up till has been worth it. It's 3:59 in South Africa. Wow, 3:59. Wow, so it's at 4 a.m. in South Africa. That is pretty crazy. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's crazy. All right, let's see. Our big incubator is staying steady at 91. Our room temperature is 82. Steady. So I'd say usually my incubator is right about 90 degrees. So I'd say 91 is okay for your incubator. All right, Richard Woolridge. We're starting with Blue-Eyed Lucy's Super Lesser Male and a Lesser Pastel. Our next investment is a piebald. Are these decent money makers to start with? So Blue-Eyed Lucy, Super Lesser Male, and a Lesser Pastel. I would say with your Blue-Eyed Leucistics and with your pieds, those are both pretty good money makers. I would say they're good money makers and they're really popular and they would sell really well. So yeah, those are really good projects to get into. So hey, we got another super chat. Thank you, Karina Cole. All right. Wow, we're catching up with the comments. Wow. All right. Super chat, Lieutenant Wu Fang Dan, David Alfredo, Cover Scale, and I all appreciate all you do. Thank you. Awesome. All right, so we're at 2 hours and 11 minutes. So have about 50 minutes left on the live stream. Let's see. The sad part is the asphalt isn't in South Africa. Any other ideas to mix? Let's see. That was KB. Let's see. Let's go back. With yellow belly spider. Okay, so something else with yellow belly spider. Good question. You can always go with the you go with another yellow belly and produce ivories. An all white snake would definitely work, especially if you did like probably what I would do is do like yellow belly, leopard, super inchy with the pastel, something like that. So essentially what you could potentially get like an ivory, which would be the super yellow belly. And then if you worked in the leopard, the inchy, or the super inchy, all of those really bring out a lot of the patterns in your ivories. And then you'd actually see the spider kind of coming through. And then if you actually worked in something bright like a pastel or a super pastel, with a combination of the leopard, the enchi, and the ivory, you could actually make some pretty amazing combinations with that. That's probably the direction I would go, to is do the ivories with the leopard or the enchi in that one. Let's see. Lost my place. Here we go. All right, JRR, how long should I wait to feed after a shed? So you could feed immediately after a shed, I would say. As a matter of fact, a lot of times I've found that even if a snake is in a shed, a lot of times I would probably, especially if you have multiple ball pythons, you're actually feeding one snake, I would probably try to feed the snake that's in shed first, because sometimes they'll actually take it while they're in shed. And usually when I'm feeding my collection, what I'll do is I'll start with the ones that I don't think are going to eat first, like the ones that are in shed or the ones that have been fasting. And I'll try those first, and I'll just assume they're not going to eat, but I'll actually try them. And then sometimes they'll eat, and then I'll go to the ones at the end that I know will eat for sure to kind of clean up all the rodents. All right, let's see. What would a Mojave Pastel 100% het clown male, and the females are 66% het black lace. The other one's 66% het clown. So keep in mind, if you actually have 66% hets, there's a 34% chance that you would actually not have that gene in your snake. So for example, if you actually took 100% het clown, bred it with a 66% het clown, you may or may not get clowns from that combination. So essentially what you're doing is you're proving out the 66% het. So if you do get visual clowns, the 66 becomes 100%, because then you'll know for sure it's actually in the mix. And if you don't get clowns, it could just be random anomaly. I'd probably breed more than once to prove that it doesn't have it. If you actually keep breeding it to a clown or a het clown and you don't get any clowns, then the 66 becomes 0 as far as the percent het clown on that one. All right, Jurassic Hank, do you think it's weird that we have pets with no legs and no arms? Yeah. I actually was thinking about that the other day. I was picking up Bobby. I was thinking, that's kind of weird that I have this pet with no legs and no arms. It seems like it's completely helpless, just crawling around on its belly. I think it is kind of weird. All right, let's see. Jane K's Blazing Snakes. Our big incubator was staying steady for about a week at 88 and recently spiked to 91. Our room temperature has always been 82. That's interesting. Yeah, so sometimes I have kind of weird increases in my incubator like that too, where I'll have a little bit of fluctuation. Sometimes it could be like, sun shining in the room at a certain part of the day shines on the incubator and kind of increases the temperature temporarily throughout the day. I've actually found that too. Sometimes you can actually, it could be like the heat on your incubator. Sometimes if you have like a cheap thermostat, like a jump start or something like that, sometimes it can fluctuate a little bit. Frank says, thanks for the answer back. You and Rich at Predator Ball Python are my favorite channels. Thank you. I used to follow Predator Ball Python quite a bit, but I haven't watched his videos for a long time. I used to watch them all the time, but it seems like I'm just so busy anymore. It's hard to really follow any YouTubers and make videos on my own channel. All right, Connor Lewis just recently got a female ball python. How many grams do females typically get? So most people will say that females get bigger than the males. My biggest female here in my collection is over 5,000 grams, I'd say. That is pretty unusual. I'd say most females get, usually I'd say anywhere from like 2,500 to maybe 3,500 grams maximum on your females. All right, Cool Live, thank you. Let's see, just bought a fire, but she looks like she has yellow belly and has het pied tracks. Nice. Nice. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so you may actually see het pied in the fire, so that may be a thing. That's pretty awesome. Let's see. What would you recommend for a second snake? I was thinking of a colubrid, but maybe a boa, but it'd have to be small because you know housemates. Yeah, so if you want a small snake, I probably wouldn't get a boa because some of those boas can get pretty big. So yeah, if I was just to do a pet snake with housemates, maybe it would be like well, if you don't do a ball python, I would probably do something like a California king snake or something like that. I really like the desert phase California king snakes that are banded with the black and white. Those are pretty awesome. Or what I would actually get is if I could only have one snake and it wasn't a ball python, maybe I'd do something like the tangerine Honduran milk snake, the albino milk snakes. Those are pretty wild looking snakes. All right, let's see. I also have a male banana orange dream het pied. What do you think about that guy? That's pretty awesome. So yeah, so a banana orange dream. Sometimes it'd be actually hard to see the orange dream in with a banana because the banana is so visually dominant. You may be able to tell the orange dream because of the pattern. A lot of times it'll reduce the pattern on the snake with the orange dream. And it's het pied. Yeah, if you can actually breed that and make some more pieds with the banana and the orange dream, that would be awesome. What I would actually do is I'd do like a het pied orange dream and try to make the super orange dream pieds. Those things are crazy looking. Have you ever bred Bobby and Bubbles? As a matter of fact, I could actually look back. I may have bred them. I actually have my breeding log over here. I don't know if I think I've bred them before. I think one of my first years, let me look back. One of my first years, I think I did breed Bobby and Bubbles together. Bamboo with pinstripe. Yes, I did breed them together. Actually, this is back in 2018, and she laid 8 good eggs. She laid eggs on the 20th of May, 2018. I bred Bobby and Bubbles together, which is pretty cool. That's the first time I actually looked that up, which is pretty amazing. All right, let's see. A&E reptiles, definitely confusion. Yes. So yeah, I'm thinking, I don't know. A lot of people have been doing confusion. I might do the acid or the static and do something that's a little bit different than confusion. My girlfriend wants you to say her name, Kalina Karazales. I probably said it wrong. Hopefully I said that name wrong. What is up, Kalina? What would you think would be the craziest combo for the pinstripe? I feel like they're so underrated. Yeah, so one of my favorite combinations of the pinstripe is working it in with a bamboo. I like, one of my favorites is working pinstripe in with the confusion. That is a really crazy snake. It really holds a lot of its gold color. Seems like it really intensifies the gold and it really shatters the pattern, which is pretty amazing as far as the pinstripe. I like the pinstripe pines. There's a lot of things you can actually do with the pinstripe. It's a pretty amazing gene, and there's no genetic defects with the pinstripe too. Let's see. If the incubator is okay at 91 for the eggs, should we expect our hatch day earlier? Yes. So typically it's around 60 days for ball python eggs. As a matter of fact, here it's almost exactly 60 days. And I'm right about, well, I actually had my incubator set at 90. And I think my egg boxes were maybe like 89 or 88. So I was right at 60 days. So yeah, 91, you may be a few days earlier. You may actually have a hatch day of like 57 or 58 days if you have it at 91 degrees. All right, Casey, I like the leopard pinstripe combos. Yes, leopard pinstripe works good too. Leopard Enchi pinstripe, yeah. All right, David Gray, how do snakes move when they don't have any legs? Is it psychic or something? Yeah, it's kind of weird how snakes can move with no legs and no arms. It's pretty wild. A&E Reptiles, I gotta go. Love your channel and how you've done gene by gene reviews. Thank you, and I will see you, A&E Reptiles. Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. Well, we're gonna go another about half an hour here on the live stream, then I'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time for another 3-hour live stream. Yeah, 5,000 grams. That's kind of wild. My favorite dark gene. I would say probably. If I was to pick just one dark gene as far as just getting a dark gene, I would probably pick mahogany because it's a really dark gene and it'll add a lot of coppery color to a lot of your dark combinations, which is pretty awesome. And kind of the cool thing is you can actually make the Suma, which is the super mahogany, which is almost a completely jet black, almost like a coppery, completely black and patternless snake, which is pretty awesome. What are your highest end morphs? I would say probably my Desert Ghost combinations. I actually have some adult Desert Ghosts. My female is Pastel Spider Desert Ghost, which is pretty awesome. Probably my highest end snake. What do you think about the black lace gene? Yeah, I haven't done a review on the black lace yet. That is another one that is definitely on my list. I don't know what Bobby's doing. Getting a little bit squirrely here on the live stream. All right, do you think a 700-gram male is ready to breed? Yes, I would definitely breed a 700-gram male. I think that is definitely big enough to breed. Are all bees just a variant of spider? Yes. So anytime you hear bee in the name, kind of the slang name of a ball python, the bee indicates that there is spider in the mix. So you actually have the lesser bee, which is the lesser and the spider. You have the bumblebee, which is the pastel and the spider. And then you have the queen bee, which is the lesser, the pastel, and the spider. So all those bees actually contain spider. All right, got another super chat. E-cover, thank you. All right, super chat question. Are the ovaries and oviducts symmetrical in a female or are they linear to help with the shape of the snake? I have no idea on that one. I don't know about ovaries and oviducts inside of a ball python. Yeah. You might have to look that one up over on Wikipedia. I'm not sure about that one. All right, Uncut Currency, what's up? How many females do you have and how many males? Good question. I can actually find that out. I actually have my, I think I have my breeding log over here. I can look it up real quick. I actually have 41 ball pythons here in my collection. See if I can pull it up. 2020 pairing. Let's see. So I'm actually pairing up 23 females. Females. I'm not sure. I actually don't have it listed over here. Let's see. I actually have this list isn't accurate, but I think I have Some of these I sold. I actually have 34 females listed here, but that's not right because I sold a lot of these. So I'm not sure exactly how many males and females I have. I definitely have to look that one up. All right. Do you prefer to focus on just a couple genes in your breeding collection, or do you like to keep a bunch of different genes? Is one more advantageous? So it really depends, I'd say, on what you're doing in your collection. I've actually seen some people where they'll just specialize on certain things. So, for example, like JD Constriction specializes primarily in axanthics. You'll see that pretty much everything they produce is axanthic. And a lot of times, if you actually just focus on one thing, you can dig deeper than anyone else as far as what you can make. And like, for example, like Justin Kobelka seems like he really focuses mainly on the clowns. You know, some people do a whole bunch of different stuff, but they have a certain focus. And as far as my collection, if you'd ask me, you know, kind of what kind of what I'm famous for, I guess, it's pretty much like the bamboos and the bamboo combinations that I've been working with mainly here in my collection, mainly because of Bobby and all the YouTube videos. But I would say as far as which one's better, just to focus on one gene or a whole bunch of genes, I would probably think it would be more advantageous to kind of spread out a little bit and have some like really low end stuff all the way to more high end stuff, so you can kind of have a snake at a price point for anyone that really wants to get into any kind of a price point. Let's see. Thanks for your advice. Sure. Yeah, no problem. All right, let's see. Ken Campbell, do you have any suggestions on my 250-gram Lucy? I have a problem of her pooing about 10 minutes into holding her. Yeah, so I would say if you have a snake that goes to the bathroom right after you hold her, that is kind of unusual, mainly because ball pythons really don't go to the bathroom that often. And to happen multiple times, I'd say it's maybe just probably a fluke as far as a ball python going to the bathroom. I'd say sometimes you can actually have like I've actually seen a reticulated python when it was a hatchling that would get really scared and go to the bathroom on you. I've actually seen like blood pythons. Sometimes you pick them up and they get like so stressed out, they'll go to the bathroom. And some king snakes will actually musk, where you smell that kind of a really strong snake smell when they release that musk. But I haven't actually seen that in ball pythons as far as doing anything like that. It's pretty uncommon to see that with ball pythons. All right, love the Desert Ghost. Yes, Desert Ghost is awesome. All right, Eddie, I just got a calico male. What would you pair with them? Yes, calico. One of my favorites is working calico in with bamboo, like the snake that I have around my neck. I'd say that's probably my favorite calico combination. Or if you mix calico with spider, that is a pretty amazing combination, especially if you work in brightening genes with the calico spider. If you work in like pastel or orange dream or fire in with a calico spider, you can make some amazing combinations. Looks like we got another super chat. What's up, Frank Nitty? Hey Chris, can I hold my ball python, copper python, and white lip python together? I wanted to try. Don't know if they'll try to eat each other. It's a carpet python, white lip python. I would say you probably could hold them all at the same time. I don't know. You could probably do it. I try not to hold too many snakes together at the same time, just in case you have some aggression between them. But I would say if you're actually supervising, you should be all right holding all those snakes together. All right, George of all trades, what's up? How big of a hatchling can you fit in a 5-compartment ARS acrylic display? Don't want to cram my babies in too tight. Yeah, so the 5-compartment, I think that is the smallest size. that is really designed for brand new hatchlings. I'd say maybe up to like maybe 150, 200 grams as far as the biggest size, maybe 250 grams. But I've actually been to a reptile show where I had bigger hatchlings where it actually completely filled the whole display, where it's just like touching on all sides in the display. And I actually had someone come up and I don't know if it was like the Department of Agriculture or something like that. And they actually busted me for having too big of a snake than too small of a compartment in my displays, which was kind of wild. And after that, I actually got bigger displays for some of my bigger hatchlings, and now I can kind of mix it up. I have, as a matter of fact, you can actually get the different sizes and put them all in the same display on your table, or you can put them in the same carrying case too with those ARS displays. So I actually have multiple sizes where I can kind of mix it up for the different size hatchlings. All right, the wobbly problem. Did it just happen on pure spider or any morph mixed with spider? So unfortunately, yes, if you have other genes mixed with the spider, you still get the problem with the head wobble. I've actually seen, it seems like if you actually work spider into desert ghosts, it seems like from what I've seen in my collection, that it seems like it eliminates, completely eliminates, or can reduce the spider wobble in with the desert ghost. I don't know if it's all desert ghosts or just the ones that I have experience with. But yeah, so you mix spider with pretty much anything. You can actually work blackhead into the spider to completely eliminate the wobble. But the problem is that when you work spider with blackhead, both genes come together where it doesn't look like a blackhead and it doesn't look like a spider. It looks kind of like a normal ball python. It almost like they completely kind of wipe each other out. So it kind of defeats the purpose of working blackhead in with spider. All right, thank you for teaching so much. Yes, sure. BBABB22, greetings from Bailey, Colorado. Wow, yes, I'm actually in Bailey, Colorado right now too. What's up? I get my black pastel banana head ghost and clown mail on Tuesday. Nice. That's pretty awesome. Black pastel with banana. That's pretty awesome. Let's see. Bubbles. This has probably been asked before, but I haven't heard. What other species of snake do you keep or recommend? So, well, you can, I would recommend just about anything if you want to keep a different species of snake. I actually have a couple of reticulated pythons. 2 retics is the only other thing I have besides my ball pythons here in my collection, and I mainly have them to eat my leftover rodents from my rat breeding operation. Although Lucy is getting so big, she almost could eat rabbits at this point, so it kind of defeats the purpose of my reticulated pythons, which I got them to eat my extra rats, which is kind of crazy. But, as far as doing like a recommended snake, I probably wouldn't recommend getting a big snake like a reticulated python unless you have like kind of the hard part is the expense of the food, and then kind of chasing them all the time because they pee all the time, and they can be really expensive to feed. And a lot of times if you have like a reticulated python, you need more than one person to move that snake back and forth between enclosures when you clean it. So I'd say that's probably one of the more difficult ones to keep versus all the other snakes. David Lee, funny, I was literally just watching your videos and noticed you're live. Could you tell me what rack system for ball pythons you recommend using? So I pretty much use all ARS caging racks here in my collection, which are the racks right behind me. And the reason I got these is because you can actually buy them as individual levels or as many levels as you can afford. So you don't have to spend like thousands of dollars on a complete rack system. You can buy just a few levels, which is pretty awesome. And they are pretty much the best of the best, so they're pretty expensive in the first place. But let me tell you, as far as like the resale value on these, you could probably sell them for even more than you paid for them at this point, which is kind of crazy. All right, I have a pastel cinnamon spider fire yellow belly female to pair with a calico. Wow, nice. Awesome. That's a lot of genes. Let's see. If you don't hit the like, Chris might die from his second COVID shot. Yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, I actually get my second COVID shot next weekend. Yeah, so I heard that one can definitely be the hardest one, your second shot. So hopefully I won't have any problems with that. And then 2 weeks later, I'll actually do the reptile show down in Pueblo, where, yeah, I'll get exposed to probably hundreds of people down there. And then after that, I'm going to go to the pool hall and shoot some pool where there'll be a lot of people. And then I'm going to go to the motorcycle ride the following day, which I'm sure, you know, all the bikers, none of those guys wear masks or anything. So I will be fully vaccinated before I get exposed to potentially thousands of people at all those events, which is kind of crazy. All right, Casey, where's the best place to get adult breeders? Yeah, I would actually go to, you can actually go to Morph Market and search by the oldest birth as far as looking for some adult breeders. Or what you can actually do, you can actually go to some of your local reptile shows. A lot of times you can find like old adult normals, like the females, at a lot of your reptile shows. I'd say probably you get the best price at a local reptile show if you're looking for just like adult females or like single gene adult animals, as far as ball pythons. All right, so we are at 2 hours, 39 minutes, 45 seconds. So we have another 20 minutes on the live stream. 66 people still on the live, 68 thumbs up. Pretty awesome. All right, I met a lady in the reptile aisle in the pet store. She said the snake that she got from the reptile show had parasites. She said she takes her snakes to the vet as soon as she buys them. Is that necessary? So, I usually, well, yeah, so I would definitely look for like mites on your snake. I would say, as a matter of fact, if you actually get a snake at a reptile show and it has mites, I'd say in most reptile shows, they actually have people that kind of patrol the shows, that if they catch you with a snake with mites on it in your display, they'll actually kick you out of the show and you have to leave with all your snakes. So I'd say, as far as, you know, getting a snake that has parasites in a reptile show, I'd say that is pretty unlikely. Usually that's controlled pretty well right in the reptile shows. And you can take a snake to the veterinarian, but so I pretty much know, you know, I look for any kind of mites on the snake. I look for the respiratory infection. I actually look to see if they have any kinks in their spine or anything like that. Make sure they have a really good body condition, that they've been eating. And if you can kind of just, you know, kind of get an eye for those things, I'd say you probably don't have to bring it to a veterinarian. What are your best tricks for stubborn feeders? Yeah, so I'd say probably the best trick that I've done lately is to take my frozen thawed rodents right before I feed them, put them under a heat lamp and get them really nice and toasty. That seems like if they're really super warm to the touch, I'd say you have a better chance of those ball pythons eating those rodents. Another thing you can actually try is probably the best thing that I've tried lately as far as stubborn feeders. I've actually taken some of my leftover rodents that nothing else will eat, and I'll put it in the tub with the ball python and close it up and leave it for about 45 minutes. And believe it or not, sometimes you'll actually have about 50% of the snakes will eat it right in the enclosure, just kind of laying right on the substrate, which, you know, in most cases, what I'll do is I'll try to, you know, kind of dangle it in front of the snake. And if they don't take it, I'll move it to the next snake. And then the next snake, just kind of go down the road that way. And whatever doesn't eat, doesn't eat. But sometimes you can put it right in the enclosure and leave it in there and it'll take it, which is kind of surprising. Phantom Fisherman, what's up? Big fan, thank you. Casey, ever heard of using coconut oil for mites? So yeah, so you can actually use vegetable oil for snake mites. I've actually seen a lot of people doing that, especially if they're catching snakes like wild snakes out in the wild. Like I've seen a lot of people catching snakes down in Florida and they want to kind of bring them into like a rescue or like into the pet industry. A lot of people like wipe them down with like a vegetable oil or like a coconut oil or something like that to get rid of all the external parasites, which is pretty amazing. Hamza, what's up? Greetings. Let's see. Soda Pop Customs, what's up? We just got a gargoyle ball python. Your videos convinced my fiance to make the purchase. We also have the hidden gene Woma. Thanks for the amazing suggestions. Sure, yeah, those are pretty awesome. Hidden gene Woma, you can make some infernos. The gargoyle is pretty awesome too. Lucky Physio, what's up? Got my Lemon Blast Enchi Leopard Yellow Belly Het Ultramel. Can't wait to grow them up. My highway girl is still waiting for them. Yeah, that's a pretty amazing combination. Working that in with the highway. Karina Cole, hooray on vaccination. Enjoy your upcoming events. Yeah, so yeah, it's pretty interesting. A lot of people are like anti-vaccination, but for me, especially going to a big event where I'll potentially get exposed to a lot of people probably coming up and shaking my hand. A lot of them probably without masks too. I decided to go for the vaccination. All right, Hustle Gang Xbox, what's up? I have a pastel ivory, possible sugar male. What would you recommend breeding to him? Yeah, so pastel ivory, so that's the super yellow belly, possible sugar. So yeah, so there's a lot of things you could do with the ivory. You could make more ivories, which is the white snake, the super yellow belly. You could work leopard or enchi or super enchi into the ivories. That'll bring out a lot of your patterns and a lot of your colors. You could take the ivory and work it into like a highway or freeway to make some more highway and freeway combinations with the asphalt or the gravel. That'd be pretty awesome. Another thing you can do with the pastel ivory, keep in mind those are both brightening genes, so you can actually work it into other brightening genes if you actually go for the brighter side of things. So you could actually work in like fire and orange dream or super orange dream into that combination, which would also be pretty cool. All right, Pickle Toast 3. That's a cute name. Can you breed out of terrariums or do I need to switch to bins? Yeah, so you can. I've actually seen people use glass aquariums for their ball pythons. So the problem with the glass aquarium is you really don't have the snake can't really see the glass aquarium, so it really doesn't count as an enclosure as far as the size of the whole glass aquarium. So a lot of people say the size of the enclosure is actually the size of the hide. So if you had a big snake like this, I'd probably use a really big hide that it could be inside of that hide versus you know, a really big glass aquarium for that snake. All right, Bobby. This snake is going crazy. All right, Bobby, what are you doing? Where are you going? Starting to fly around like a corn snake. All right, my DIY garage. How do you know when to stop pairing if you don't have an ultrasound? So I usually start pairing, I usually keep pairing for about 5 months. And then after 5 months, I separate my males and my females, because the problem is if you keep pairing more than 5 months, then you run into your females laying really super late, and you won't get your females in condition before the next season. So pretty much at 5 months, I call it quits, pairing up my males and my females, and then I don't really. I pretty much get what I get as far as sometimes especially if you have an ultrasound, you could be tempted to breed year round because you're always looking at the follicles and trying to pair up your females at the right time. But if you don't have an ultrasound, I'd probably do just 5 months for your males and your females. Do you know if you've had any hidden gene womos with wobbles? I heard they can have it, but it seems to be pretty uncommon. So I really haven't worked with the hidden gene woma at all, and I know they can have the potential to have some head wobble, but I haven't really heard of any problems with a lot of people with the hidden gene woma. I'd say pretty much like the spider and the champagne are probably the two where you can have more head wobbles than the other ones. All right, Blue from the bottom. How often should I handle my 11th month snake? Because I try to handle them not often. Want them to feel as free as I can, but I still want them socialized. So yeah, so you can handle them. I actually handle Bobby every single day for probably about an hour a day. And when they start kind of wanting to get away from you, I'd say that's probably long enough when they don't really want to be on the shoulder. You can kind of tell after that point. But yeah, I would say you can handle them pretty much every single day. I would handle them more than probably an hour at a time. I'd probably start out with maybe like 5 or 10 minutes, and slowly work up gradually over a period of time. Love that you read and answer every comment. Yeah, I'd say I haven't really seen anyone else that'll do that, go through every single comment. As a matter of fact, it seems like a lot of people on these live streams don't answer any of the comments or just answer a few of the comments, which is kind of crazy. All right, J&K's Blazing Snakes. I've heard of mouth rot and did a little bit of research. I'm wondering what you would do if I found one of your snakes with mouth rot. So yeah, so if I found mouth rot or like a respiratory infection on one of my snakes, I would definitely bring that snake to the veterinarian, because I would say in a lot of cases, something like that, probably what they need is like an injection of an antibiotic. And when it comes to like injections in a snake, let me tell you, I don't really know where all the organs are in the snake. So I definitely have to have some training as far as, where to inject it and what to be careful of as far as the snake and things like that. As a matter of fact, I'd probably have a veterinarian do all the injections in my snake. Sometimes they'll actually give you like a whole handful of injections, and they'll do the first one at the vet, and then you're supposed to do all the other ones by yourself. I actually had that with my tortoise. My tortoise had a respiratory infection, which is kind of wild. They did the first shot at the vet, and then they gave us a whole bunch of different, like a whole handful of syringes. And we actually did all the injections here at home, which is kind of wild, trying to inject antibiotics into the leg of a tortoise, which was a pretty wild experience. All right, Lee Stokely, what advice can you give to new startup? What's the main point of focus for a beginner breeder? Yeah, so new advice for startups. So what I would actually do, I would probably start with at least 1 or 2 adult females, so you can actually get some hatchlings your first couple of years. So if you actually start up just buying hatchlings, you're probably at least 2 or 3 years away from getting your first eggs, which can be kind of frustrating. So if you actually start with at least 1 or 2 adult females, you can actually get some hatchlings right from the start after your first year, hopefully. But yeah, so there's so many things for a new someone getting into it. You can actually pretty much, I would say, just kind of do your research as far as what genes you want to get into and what's out there, what's popular, and just kind of go after what you're really interested in as far as specific genes. Yeah, so yeah, you can pretty much do whatever you want starting up. I'd probably focus mainly on like the husbandry and the feeding of ball pythons. That's kind of the trickiest part starting out. Let's see. What are some useful tips for breeding ball pythons? So I would say, when you actually first get into breeding ball pythons, I just realized that it's a long-term adventure. So usually it takes, years and years just to get started breeding ball pythons. And some of these projects you work on, it can take decades to actually get the final result breeding ball pythons. So it's kind of the one thing a lot of people think they're going to get into it, make a quick buck and then get out of it. And let me tell you, most of the times once you get into it, it's definitely a long-term project as far as breeding ball pythons. I mean, if it was really easy to breed ball pythons and you'd actually produce a whole lot really fast, all the prices would come down and we'd flood the market and it wouldn't be what it is today, I think, as far as breeding ball python. So it's kind of pros and cons. Do you feed African soft furs? No, I actually don't breed or feed African soft furs. I tried a couple times to breed African soft furs, and they're really slow breeders. It seems like they're almost pets versus, really productive, feeder animals with African soft furs. But yeah, so I would say if I was to do African soft furs again, what I would probably do is I would order them from some kind of an online place and just order like a frozen thawed African soft fur just to kind of have some kind of as a backup for real picky feeders maybe, and try some for, if a ball python goes on a fast for several months, I might try an African soft fur just to kind of snap it out of a fast or something like that. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about making an order for some rabbits for Lucy. I'm pretty sure she's at the point where I've been feeding her some rats and the rats just seem so small and they just don't fill her up. I definitely need some rabbits for her. And I'm thinking maybe I'll order some frozen African soft furs at the same time. All right, Karina Cole, my 13-year-old wants to become a breeder. What is a reasonable path for her to take to making this happen? Let's see. So my suggestion would be to just buy a ball python. If you want to start, I'd just say, probably the best way is just to buy a snake and kind of get used to, the snake and kind of the maintenance and the feeding and everything like that. I'd probably start with a female at the beginning if you're thinking about it, especially if you're thinking about maybe buying like a hatchling and just like as a pet, maybe thinking about breeding it. I would definitely start as just buying a female and just kind of sitting on a little bit. And then if you decide to breed, you could actually buy a male and then breed it to that female later on down the road. All right, Pickle Toast 3. Do you think there are too many people breeding ball pythons? Is the market oversaturated? So people have been asking this ever since the beginning, and it seems like we produce more and more ball pythons and more people are getting into it. And it seems lately that the prices are actually increasing because there's so many people that are getting into ball pythons. And I think a lot of it has to do with the pandemic too. A lot of people lost their jobs. They're looking for another source of income that they can do from home, and they're breeding ball pythons. And a lot of people are just, kind of discovering how awesome they are and how low maintenance a ball python is. So it's kind of cool. You can have some really low maintenance pets and you can make some money on the side. And it's I don't think it's really oversaturated. I don't know if the ball python industry will ever be really oversaturated. As a matter of fact, I think the new genes that keep coming into the market really stimulate the ball python industry as far as continuing it to be more and more popular. I think if we didn't have the new genes coming in all the time, I think it could get kind of stagnant as far as ball pythons. But I don't really see in the near future, I'd say probably in the next at least 5 or 10 years, I don't see ball pythons, becoming oversaturated or people having a problem with the ball python industry as a whole. All right, Andrew, what are some dark morphs of ball pythons? Yeah, so there's quite a few dark morphs. I'd say pretty much the darkest of the dark is the blackhead. The blackhead, when you mix it in with other genes, you can make some of the darkest combinations working blackhead. And then you have, for example, you have the black pastel and the cinnamon, which are allelic, really close to each other. I'd say most people agree that the black pastel is completely different than the cinnamon, although there is some overlap between the two. And if you actually make the super black pastel or the super cinnamon, you actually get a completely black and patternless snake. Sometimes the cinnamons can be completely black. Sometimes it can be kind of like a brown, kind of a cinnamon color. You also have like the leopard, which is a dark gene that's a really strong pattern enhancing gene. Let's see, you also have the mahogany, which actually is a dark gene. It also brings in some like a coppery color with the dark gene too. You also have the confusion, the acid, and the static, which some people think are the same gene, which is similar to the leopard, except it really explodes the pattern a lot more. That's also a dark gene. Trying to think of any other dark genes off the top of my head. I think that is the majority. I'm sure I'm missing probably a bunch of dark genes on top of that. There's quite a few dark genes. You can make some pretty awesome combinations, especially if you start layering dark gene on top of dark gene. You can make some pretty amazing combinations. All right, Minion Museum. I was going to go live with Bobby's daughter earlier, but I need 1,000 subscribers. Yeah, you can't do a live. Well, that's kind of interesting. So you need 1,000 subscribers to go live, but I have seen people with less than 1,000 subscribers go live. So you may be able to go through StreamYard in order to do a live without 1,000 subscribers, because I've seen a lot of people go live with less than 1,000 subscribers, but they use StreamYard kind of as a backdoor to get into it. All right, so we are at, we just hit 3 hours exactly. Is that it? Just getting a mail maker banana Mojave mid-May. Do you have any recommendations for what to breed to him in the future? Let's see, a male maker banana Mojave. So one of my favorite combinations with banana is Enchi. The Enchi bananas go pretty good with just about anything. And with the Mojave, you can actually make like the Mojave lesser to make pretty much the ideal all white snake with the blue eyes. You could actually take the Mojave and work it into like the Mystic or the Phantom to make like the Purple Passions or the Mystic Potions. You could take the Mojave, breed it with the Special to make some crystals, which is pretty awesome too. Yeah, a lot of things you can do with that combination. Proper Royals, has YouTube rebounded at all for you? I know earlier in the pandemic it seemed like the bottom was falling out of advertising money. Is YouTube still worth it? So definitely. Yeah, that's pretty much my number one source of income is my YouTube money. And it seems like you make most of your ad revenue towards the end of the year, like October, November, December. It goes up really good as far as making more money per ad. And then in the spring, it kind of tanks. But yeah, YouTube is definitely still worth it. All right, the True Bud, need frozen food. All my local places don't have them, and I hate Petco. Yeah, so yeah, normally with frozen food, I actually buy it like at Rodent Pro or something like that for my frozen food. Hello, Proper Royals, True Bud. I use Rodent Pro. Yeah, so yeah, I pretty much use Rodent Pro 100%. Where do you stand on sea serpent racks? I haven't really seen a sea serpent rack in person. as far as, you know, when I actually go to reptile shows, I like to actually walk up to a rack and kind of shake it a little bit. I've seen some that seem really unstable. I don't know what brands they were, but let me tell you, if you're doing a rack review, you definitely need to see it and handle it in person to really review it. All right, keep at it. I appreciate your subs and your kind note. Cheers. All right, so we're at the end of the comments. 3 hours and 2 minute live stream. Wow, still 58 people on the live stream, 79 thumbs up. And I am gonna call it right here at 3 hours and 3 minutes. I'm gonna do another live stream tomorrow at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. If you want to come back and have more questions for me, then usually we have a few more people on Sundays versus Saturday. I think, you know, Saturday evening, everyone's like out partying, and we get a lot of times we get like twice the number of people on Sundays, which is kind of interesting. So I'm going to call it here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the comments, and thanks for the super chat. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the live stream tomorrow.